Well, a very good morning to you wherever you are. This is the forum on Asaase 99.5 in Accra. Alternatively, we're also streaming live on Facebook. Do join us with your thoughts and comments on the forum. We dive into the biggest stories of the week with some of the brightest minds in politics and legal affairs. Now, besides Asaase Radio 99.5 in Accra, the forum is also live on Asaase Radio 99.7 in Tamale, 100.3 in Cape Coast, and of course 98.5 in the garden city of Kumasi. Welcome one and all. On the forum today we have three issues that we'll be diving into. If you have been following the news terrain, then you know that President John Dramani Mahama has suspended the Chief Justice of the country, Gertrude Araba Tokonu, following the determination of prima facie case after three petitions were brought against the Chief Justice for her removal. Now, the NDC or the government spokesperson, Phyllis Kwachi, has been explaining that President John Dramani Mahama hasn't committed or done any constitutional infraction in ensuring that he suspended the Chief Justice of the country. In fact, they've said that all the things that the Constitution of the country stipulates, that is exactly what the President has followed through with to finally suspend the Chief Justice. The NPP, on the other hand, is not in the least surprised about the decision of the President to suspend the Chief Justice. This is because last week, the minority in Parliament held a press conference where they said that the writing on the wall for the removal and the suspension of the Chief Justice was really clear. And so for them, this decision by the President somewhat has proven prophetic for them. Not just that, they are also indicating that they are going to launch a massive demonstration in this country over the decision to suspend the Chief Justice because they've labeled it as unconstitutional and absurd. There have also been a number of arguments posited. For instance, the Ghana Bar Association and, of course, FIDA have also all weighed in on the suspension of the Chief Justice of the country. These are all issues we'll be looking at on the forum today. I'll be joined by our lawyers very soon. And many have said that this is a judicial coup, and others said it's a set process. We'll find out, is it really a judicial coup or a set process here on the forum? Then one other issue that also gained traction this week is the strike by the Tamale Teaching Hospital doctors. Now, if you again been following the news, you know that doctors at the Tamale Teaching Hospital, I beg your pardon, have laid down their tools in protest over what they say is disrespect from the health minister, Kwabena Minta Akando. Now, the minister was on a working visit to the hospital following a news that had gone viral of a patient that died at the Tamale Teaching Hospital following the alleged negligence of doctors at the facility. And following that, we saw the confrontation that went viral on social media where the minister was in a heated argument with doctors at the facility. Well, right after that visit, that it didn't go down well with the doctors because, again, there was a lot of backlash on social media on the work of the doctors. Some of them have called their professionalism and dedication to the fore. They got angry and they responded going on strike, and for the past 3 days they are not receiving patients out the outpatient departments of the Tamale Teaching Hospital. We've had the minority call on the doctors to rescind their decision and go back to the ward. But more importantly, essential workers as doctors, what does the law say about going on a strike? What does the law say about embarking on an industrial action? Does it apply to any normal worker? Well, with the help of our lawyers this morning, would be able to get to the root of that matter. Then finally, one other conversation is the former boss of the Signals Bureau, Kwabena Bodhene, suing the Attorney General. This is on the back of a press conference that was held by the Attorney General exactly a month ago, where he presented findings from the Economic Organized Crime Office of some financial malfeasance and misappropriations, citing the former head of the Signals Bureau boss being complicit in all of this. And following that, he has filed a lawsuit against the Attorney General, a defamation lawsuit seeking some release over the punitive measures, of course. And so those are the issues. The third one that we'll be looking through when we have our guest joining us. Like I rightly mentioned, if you're just tuning in, this is the forum on Asaase Radio 99.5 in Accra. With me, Fritz Delanyo Amegashie. It feels really good to be back in a role on the forum. I mentioned that our guest will be joining us. I'm sure most of you have seen the artwork on our social media platforms. And of course, the usual face and voice on the show, Nii Kpakpo, lawyer and member of the National Democratic Congress, will be joining us. Another guest is Tabitha Ayila, member of the NPP National Communications team. We also have a private legal practitioner, Alex Gyamfi, also joining us, and Kwesi Batchvey, private legal practitioner, and of course, a member of the NPP National Communications team. Before we go to our guests, most of them are running late. We'll be speaking on the three topics we have for today on the forum. One private legal practitioner, since the suspension of the CJ came to light, has been commenting on what he thinks that is unconstitutional and absurd for the president to actually suspend the Chief Justice of the country. Kwame Adofo is a private legal practitioner. We'll take a listen to his sound. We'll come back and continue the show.
I have also seen the allegation contained in the petition and the response on AsaseRadio.com. I don't know if you've cited. If what I'm seeing, as far as the allegations and the responses are true, then I would say the answers are exculpatory, in a sense that there's no way any judge making a judicial determination of whether or not there is a prima facie case against the Chief Justice, based on the allegation and the responses, will find that there was a case for her to answer. No way, because reading at it as a lawyer, I saw how exculpatory the responses are. There's no way I would say there's any room for anybody to even make a finding that there's a prima facie case to answer. Unless, of course, what I'm seeing is not what is contained in the actual allegation and the responses by the Chief Justice. Because, trust me, I am enabled to read between the lines with a fine-tooth comb and ascertain whether there has been a wrong done. But reading the allegation and their responses, trust me, it will be almost unbelievable for any judge to have arrived at a decision whether or not there's a case for the Chief Justice to answer, which consequently resulted in her being suspended from office. In any era where the people are faced with the possibility of having a Chief Justice removed, it's very grave, in a sense that the consequence or the effect of that will be causing fear within the judges, and that in itself is very grave. Now, those the example you cited at the time was very serious stuff, and it's remained in the history books of this country forever. And this one, if it succeeds, is going to be part of the history of this country. But I'm saying I'm more concerned about what will happen to the judiciary if this is allowed to stand. Now, so far, looking at the allegations and the responses, I don't think this is a case that warrants even a finding of prima facie case at all, unless what I've read is not the allegation and the responses.
Well, you're still listening to the Forum on Asaase Radio 99.5 in Accra with me, Fritz Delanyo Amegashie. The voice you heard play earlier was private legal practitioner Kwame Adofo on the removal, on the suspension rather, of the CJ. I mentioned earlier in my intro that the Ghana Bar Association was the first to actually weigh in on the suspension of the Chief Justice, and they issued a statement. I have a copy of that. Let me run that by you. It says that over the past 2 months, the General Council of the Ghana Bar Association has been closely monitoring developments on the process for the removal of the Chief Justice, which has culminated in his suspension by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana. Per the Constitution, the Code of Ethics and Regulations of the Ghana Bar Association, the Ghana Bar Association concerns itself with matters affecting the legal profession, which include but not limited to defending and upholding freedom and justice in Ghana and the maintenance of the independence of the judiciary. As of 27th March 2025, when the General Council of the Ghana Bar Association met, 3 petitions had been submitted for the removal of the Chief Justice and 2 cases that had been instituted at the Supreme Court challenging the procedure that had been triggered for the removal of the Chief Justice, with subsequent applications for an injunction of the said process. It goes on to say that the Ghana Bar Association is mindful of the provisions of Article 1466 and 7 of the 1992 Constitution, which details the process for the removal of the Chief Justice by providing as follows. 6. Where the petition for the removal of the Chief Justice, the President shall, acting in consultation with the Council of State, appoint a committee consisting of 2 justices of the Supreme Court, one of whom shall be appointed chairman by the President, and 3 other persons who are not members of the Council of State, not members of Parliament, not lawyers. Now, 7 of that article says that the committee appointed under Clause 6 of this article shall inquire into the petition and recommend to the President whether the Chief Justice ought to be removed from office. The Ghana Bar Association also notes that the provisions of Article 146, 8, 9, and 10, which indicates that sittings of the committee shall be held in camera, and the President, acting in accordance with the advice of the Council of State, may suspend the Chief Justice. While the Ghana Bar Association recognizes the constitutional prescriptions for the removal of the Chief Justice under Article 146 to 10 of the Constitution, and mindful of the fact that presently the entire matter is sub judice, and it's hoped that the belief of the GBA that the actors involved in the whole process could have the time tested the tenets of the rule of law as their guiding principles, and its application follow the spirit of the law. It's expected that persons who play even in the minutest role in the process will hear in mind Article 296 of the 1992 Constitution on the exercise of discretion, and would act in a manner that safeguards and enhance the independence and image of the judiciary. Justice emanates from the good people of Ghana and is administered by judiciary headed by the Chief Justice, I beg your pardon. The Ghana Bar Association shall carry out its mandate to defend, strengthen, and enhance confidence in the justice delivery system in Ghana. The Ghana Bar Association shall remain the conscience of society, the voice of the voiceless, and act safeguard the rule of law and uphold the Constitution of the Republic, which embodies the wishes and aspirations of the people of Ghana. And so that was a statement released by the Ghana Bar Association when it came to light that the Chief Justice of the country had been suspended by the President, John Dramani Mahama. Now, in response to this statement by the Ghana Bar Association, government spokesperson Phyllis Kwachi also said that the Ghana Bar Association did not cite any constitutional infraction by the President on the removal and the suspension of the Chief Justice. And so he sees nothing with the contents of the Ghana Bar Association press statements. And we spoke to the Ghana Bar Association, and they have been telling us that, look, they are not pointing out any constitutional infraction by the president, but they are just concerned with the processes into the suspension of the Chief Justice. And once those processes are held in a way that expresses the independence of the judiciary, they do not have a problem with that. And so, a lot of conversation building up on the suspension of the Chief Justice. I earlier mentioned that the NPP said that they will be having a demonstration in this country over the suspension of the Chief Justice. Remember that they said we're going to have a thank you tour, and in the spirit of that, they will have their concerns and grievances registered, why they think that the president suspended the Chief Justice and some of the arguments they've been making. I've also heard some of the communicators of the party say that this could send a strong signal for what they term as democracy capture, where the government sort of assign itself or try to take hold of the three arms of government in a way that favors them, in a way they can pander to them. So those are some arguments coming in on the back of the suspension of the Chief Justice. I'd love to know, if you're listening or watching on Facebook, what you make of some of these three issues that we'll be looking at on the forum this morning. I'll be dedicating a huge amount of time to reading your comments on the show. So I would urge all of you, if you're listening, if you don't have the benefit of traditional radio, you can simply go on Google www.asaaseradio.com and listen to the radio. On Facebook, like I mentioned earlier, you can leave your thoughts and comments, and I'll be reading them and sharing them with the rest of the world. Three topics that we're looking at: the suspension of the Chief Justice, and of course the ongoing strike at the Tamale Teaching Hospital. We spoke to patients who had showed up at the facility to access health care, and they got there, they were disappointed, and they had to be turned away. There was no notice around the hospital that indicated that the doctors were on strike, and so you take your patients there who is, apparently sick, and they get there and they get the disappointments of their life. Then one other story: the former head of the Signals Bureau, Kwabena Bodhene, has filed a defamation suit against the Attorney General. This is interesting, and I'm just looking forward to the legal arguments that are likely to come up in this defamation suit. Again, it raises the important question of the balance between public accountability and public officials who are under investigation and the rights they have. And so all of those issues being discussed on the forum this morning with me, Fritz Delanyo Amegashie. I'm taking a quick breather. I'll be back shortly. Warm welcome back. This is still the forum with me, Fritz Delanyo Amegashie. On the forum, we dive deep into the biggest stories of the week with some of the bright minds in politics and legal affairs. This morning, we are looking at 3 issues that have dominated headlines across the country. And with the help of our legal expert and those in politics, would be able to bring you a nuanced discussion. Let me say hello to one of my guests, Alex Gyamfi. A very good morning to you, Alex. Good to see you. I think since the new year, this is the first time I'm seeing you. How has the year been treating you so far?
Very good, very good. Good morning to your listeners.
Good morning.
And happy to be back.
Great to have you on the show. I want us to begin with the suspension of the CJ. Following that suspension, a 5-member committee has been put together to investigate the petitions that have been brought against the Chief Justice, and she's been away until the outcome of those investigations. There have been a lot of commentary on the action of the president. Some have said that the action of the president is unconstitutional, it's absurd, but spokesperson for the government, Phyllis Kwachi, says that the president didn't do anything wrong. In fact, has the president done anything that the constitution hasn't provided for? What are your thoughts?
Well, thank you for the opportunity and good morning to your listeners. Let me do a small preamble. Anywhere, everywhere on this planet, when you are given a job, you are given terms, conditions. The conditions under which you will come, you will be employed. The conditions under which you will work, and the conditions you will exit. So once it's a formal employment, or even if it's not a formal employment, but it is a kind of relationship, even if it's not written, there will be state laws to regulate even informal employment. The powers of the state, as we know it and call it separation of powers. The legislature is the executive, is there, judiciary is there. There is a procedure by which you come into office and work. There's a procedure by which you exit. The heads of these 3 institutions are probably the most important people in the country. One of them is the Chief Justice. The President of the Republic, there is a procedure by which he will exit, or he can be impeached or can be removed from office. We have seen similar things in the United States. Nixon was the one who suffered most, to the extent that he lost office through the Watergate scandal. So when powers are conferred on you, you are required to comply with the terms of such powers conferred on you. So for me, what has happened in the case of the Chief Justice is not strange. If the Chief Justice indeed has done something wrong and the law must deal with her, there is nothing special about it. If anybody in the judicial service had done anything wrong and the Chief Justice in exercise of administrative powers how to deal with the person, there is no problem. What makes the Chief Justice's position and her case unique is the campaign message of His Excellency the President before he came into office. Which is the NDC must brace itself. You see, when you made the NDC forum, I think professional forum, one in Legon and one at
where he met the lawyers of the NDC.
Yes. Right. I think one of them was professionals, and then later on I think he met the lawyers. You understand that?
Right.
The president made a complaint and made a statement to them, political statement. Don't forget that appointment to the superior courts is basically political. I can pick anybody I want if I'm the head of state, provided the person satisfies the requirements of becoming a high court, appeals, or Supreme Court judge. And you go through the process. After swearing into office, the oath into all the oaths required of you, you owe allegiance to the Constitution and not to individual persons per se. Let me give you an example. If the people you appoint were the people who could one day save you. And Akufo-Addo would not have lost the 2012 petition. Because as Attorney General, most of the people who sat on the 2012 petition were people when he was Attorney General, he worked to recommend or use the due process to bring them to the bench or to the Supreme Court. If that is the procedure. In the case of the celebrated case in the United States, Marbury and Madison, the Chief Justice was the Attorney General of the sitting government. But he lost. So it is the due process that matters. So I'm saying that what makes the Chief Justice case special is the comments and the promises and the statements, the campaign messages of His Excellency the President.
The President, when he was in opposition, raised questions with perceived judicial bias and said that NDC lawyers should aspire to be on the bench. I mean, how does those comments effectively be the reason why someone is suspended and you blame it?
You see, there is an agenda to be pursued from the President comments and the comment by some senior party members and spokesperson of the government. There is an agenda to be pursued. The agenda to be pursued is to bring in their people through the due process. Through the same due process, because you can't appoint the person through an irregular means. It won't work. But then, if you get the top removed, then you get the cooperation probably that they think they will not get from the current Chief Justice, to the extent that if you have to appoint lower court judges, the Chief Justice is involved heavily. It is basically her job. If you want to appoint justices to the superior courts, the Chief Justice is involved, even though I admit that there is a committee that works on some of these matters. Some of them to a personal appointment you make straight to the Supreme Court when the person satisfies the rules. So if you get a top removed, or you get a top to satisfy the political desire, probably it will be easier for you. The days coming will indicate and show all this in the next 2-3 years. You see. But the point really is that, what has the Chief Justice done? Me, I've heard all the debates. I don't even know what to say new again. The debate that is right, the debate that is wrong, the debate that is speculative, the debate that is...
The debate that she flouted her travel policy.
So what is the person's conditions of service? And is that sufficient grounds to remove the Chief Justice? How many traveling? I have not seen the reports because in Tiger Eye case, the Supreme Court has said that some of these things should be conducted in what? In camera. And therefore, some of the things that our people are talking about, I don't want to rely on them to make an emphatic statement. Because you have not seen, I have not seen it, I have not read it.
We published it.
Another dangerous thing that has been done. Who made it available to the public to be published? Another dangerous thing to the health of democracy in Ghana. Very dangerous thing.
You don't think it's good for
I don't think what is the position of the law? If you think the position of the law is wrong, you go back to the court and contest it and set it aside. But as it remains, the due process of law, has the Chief Justice been fairly been treated? These are the issues that will one day be raised. Who made the document public? There is a Supreme Court decision that guides it. In the Tiger Ace case, what did they say? So who made the document public to the extent that people publish it on their website? I don't want to be associated with that as a lawyer. Because we must respect the law. And fair treatment, fair hearing involves a lot of things. And I can tell you probably the Chief Justice lawyers are watching. Me, I'm even surprised that somebody has not gone to court again over this so-called premier fashion again. But the question is that the things we are reading are speculative, and therefore, if you're a professional, you have to be guided by the principles of your office. So me, what is going on, it is, you see, you have a government minister saying that the courts have not been favorable to us since the Fourth Republic. If you don't do your things well, why do you think that somebody, a teacher, will pass you because of who you are or who your father was? I've been a teacher for 22 years. I will never pass you in my government lessons. If you don't read, because I will provide you what you should read to pass. So clearly, there is something going on in the country that all of us might be interested. But I'm saying that if you think that the judiciary has not been good towards your cause, you must also look at how you have conducted yourself in your cases. Because from 92 coming, what were the cases that went to court that NDC lost? That NDC think that the judiciary is not on their side. If you look at the 31st December case, the facts were clear to the extent that your own Attorney General, who had joined the Supreme Court, voted against you. That is, I think, if I remember, it's just a case. If I remember him. Your own Attorney General from 1983 to 1998, you brought to the Supreme Court, voted against you. Because the fact did not support your case. Which case? The GBC case. And several other cases. In 2001, they're about coming. And particularly in the election petition 2020, where they complain about 7090. Subsequently, what didn't the General Secretary of the party, when he was seeking the office of a party chairman, tell the whole nation? So they knew what they did. They set up a trap. And when they fall into it, they go and blame somebody. So some of these things, in as much as I admit that there can be wrongs, and if there is a wrong, there is a procedure by which a judge or somebody does wrong, you can correct it. But not to impute certain bias that you can't establish. At this stage, all the things that are flying, what are the sources of it? And what shows that they are authentic? So I think it's something that the Chief Justice and the lawyers who are within and who know the facts would deal with this as per the requirements of the law. But subjecting the person necessarily to his terms of employment will not necessarily be a bad thing, subject to the fact that the president and his officers and his senior officers' campaign message would not make it surprising to see what is happening. No.
But if the constitution of the country is clear on what would warrant the removal of a Chief Justice and says that misconduct and incompetence, if the Chief Justice is alleged, per the documents we have obtained, blew state's money, right? State funds for private travel for the spouse and the daughter. Is that not misconduct?
It's a condition. Your statement is a conditional statement. It's if. You understand that?
From what we have cited, if there's anything to go.
And has the Auditor General gone through it? Has it gone through the Auditor General processes?
But have you also heard the NDC say that she's paying the money back cheaply or something?
You see, those are speculative and political. And once you open the political gates, you then hear all manner of debates. Public institutions are audited by the government's auditor called the Auditor General, and recommendations are made. So tell me whether this has been audited by the Auditor General and the person has been given hearing. An allegation, mere allegation against a person will not be enough ground to say that the person should be removed from office. Has the institution been audited and this has come up for the person to answer? Has he been given the opportunity, pay the due process? We see on television, Auditor General's report and the Parliament Public Accounts Committee going through it. And some of these things, you see how they are addressed. Why might the Chief Justice alone be discriminated against if what you are alleging is true? If this is the ground that the so-called three petitions, and this is what is flying, and I'm being careful with the choice of words, why would the Chief Justice be discriminated against? Right. How many senior officers have been removed from office because of some of these infractions after they have been given hearing? To the extent that after change of government, this became a ground for what? For her removal.
So you're saying that if the reasons cited for the determination of prima facie case, if it's anything to go by, then the reason about the travel is trivial?
I am not saying it is trivial. What I'm saying is that the due process of law that is required, public institutions are audited by the Auditor General. Recommendations are given after the person has been given opportunity to what? To respond. If you find that one to be wrong, then it's a different matter. But what is the Auditor General's report saying about some of these things? I don't want to buy into the speculations going on. I just want to speak to the principles, because that is the basis of fairness. It can be done to me. It's been done to somebody. Somebody can do it to me one day.
Yeah.
You understand that? You never know where you end up in life. You could end up one day a high court judge, and some of these things will come up against you, or in any other engagement.
Well, Mr. Gyamfi, hasn't the president been fair to the Chief Justice? I mean, petitions were brought against her. She forwarded to the Council of State. Consultation was done. Council of State reverted and said there is a prima facie case. Now put up a 5-member committee to investigate the issue. I mean, is that not constitutional? Did the president follow the right process?
Good. You see, Marx will tell you that there are no rights, and the rights are there for those who can afford to defend it. You understand that? When he examines society and all his proletaries and all the manners of bourgeoisie, he comes to the conclusion that fundamental human rights, they say, is in the hands of the state. But the Western thought, where fundamental rights are accorded to a person by status of the fact that he's a citizen, he doesn't look at it that way, unless you push for it. Did the president willingly give the Chief Justice a copy of the petition? The Chief Justice demanded. The Chief Justice demanded. So this idea of, the president has even done well by going ahead to give a copy, and that in the case of Charlotte saying, he said this or he said that. It's neither here nor there. When the petitions came to the president, did the president just call the Chief Justice and say that there is a petition against you to come and collect a copy? The leadership of the Chief Justice actually pushed for it. I commend the president for what? For giving her the opportunity to respond to some of these things. That one, I commend the president. But I'm saying that it is not something that deliberately came from what? His Excellency the President.
But Phyllis Kwachi said that because consultation was going on with Council of State, it was definitely going to be given to her to respond.
That is not the argument I will buy one day. That is not the argument I will buy one day. The fact does not support such speculative. He's a defender of the government policy. So this is what you say, but you believe it.
Well, if the president says that we're consulting to determine a prima facie case, before that determination, I'm sure they would allow her the opportunity to respond.
That is a doubt I will raise. But in the first place, who made the whole thing public? It's not the same government, when the matter should not have become a public issue. So I hold a different view. Completely hold a different view. But I'm saying that whatever it is, let the due process be what? Be respected, be adhered to. Let fairness apply, so that even if they succeed, which means I doubt they will succeed in removing her. Even if they succeed in removing her. You see, this is not the first time a Chief Justice has been dismissed or has been removed from office. In, I think, 1963, after the Ochi affair, when the Supreme Court could not find the evidence to convict the people involved, the so-called big people who were involved. What happened? Justice Van Leer, Justice Kufuado, and Justice Kukosa were dismissed by the Nkrumah government, reconstituted, and they set up a new with a new Chief Justice. When NLC took over, they dismissed the Chief Justice. Justice Akwadi was removed, and they brought in Justice Kufuado. When Akufo-Addo became the head of state, there was a new Chief Justice, Justice Bannerman. So, you see, and in the Fourth Republic, there had been petitions to the president to remove Chief Justice or something against them, in which it didn't see the light of day. So, if this one has come to the stage where we have all found it, I'm saying that let's deal with it according to the law, but not because somebody has been magnanimous with the Chief Justice. But I'm saying that the issue, the so-called things that have come up, if this is the only thing that has been cited, do you think this is the ground for removing the whole Chief Justice? The so-called things that the people say, responses that have come, if this is the only thing, and I'm saying that how has the Auditor General treated this matter before it came up? Why do you put the thing aside and look at people's faces to deal with them instead of looking at the law?
So you felt that this could have been dealt with? I mean, the audit, if proper auditing was
Who
done.
audits government accounts? who audit government accounts in this country? And how is the Auditor General's report treated in this country? The law is clear. You give the person, you audit the institution, give them people you think that they are infractions. Why do we call something infractions? You give them the opportunity to respond to them before the final document comes out. It goes to Parliament, the Speaker set up a committee, Public Accounts Committee is held, meetings and hearings are held on television for everybody to see. Had the Chief Justice been given the alleged so-called infraction we are talking about, you understand? Has she been given the opportunity to respond to? I don't know. I am asking questions. And then we are wasting our time in this republic once there's so much to do. The government has no job to do. Look at their budget. They had nothing in their budget.
Right.
And instead they are doing something just to occupy this media space, the political space, for their people to be heard. What is going on in Boku? Why is it the president and the government is not doing what is expected to bring? And here the things we are.
Mediation, Otun Force H2.
Otun Force mediation is going on. Yes, I agree and concede. Can the president do more? Hear the things people are saying. To the extent that the whole IGP's visit to the place was under complete what? He was he not shot, his car shot or something like that?
The residents have apologized for that.
The apology we are expending. If the IGP had an assessment, the apology have brought him back.
They've expressed remorse.
So let's find the people who did that and bring them under the law. That is the apology. Yes, is accepted in good faith, but that should not end there, because you don't just commit crimes and think that you render apology and people get away with it. Then there would have been no need for justice.
Well, the government said that they will prosecute everybody involved in that. But Mr. Gyamfi, let me bring you a thought expressed by Professor H.K. Prempeh on the 146 of the Constitution, because again there have been a lot of arguments on how people interpret, or lawyers interpret that part of the act. He said, first, is that I have at least two problems with Article 146 in its present form. First is the secrecy or lack of transparency concerning the removal petition. Even if the removal proceedings must be held in camera, I believe that at the minimum, the findings and outcome of the proceedings, including grounds and supporting evidence behind the removal petition, must be made public after the fact. That is, whether or not the petition succeeds, the public must not be kept in the dark as to why a removal petition failed or succeeded. In the interest of justice, I believe the grounds and evidence in support of the committee's decision, whichever way it goes, must be made public, so that the public too can judge for themselves as to whether justice was served in the matter.
That is his opinion. He's entitled to his opinion. But as the law stands now, this is the position. All these why when these matters were in the case of a GHU, what happened? Those days there were no requirements of prima facie. Somebody went to court,
right, and
succeeded. So I appreciate the position of the respected scholar. My position is that we must also test it and see. You understand what I'm saying? I have problems with the whole armed forces. I've been doing some literature work from 1969, trying to find out from the Constitutional Review Commissions some of the views they express. I have a problem with the whole armed forces. Why is it so easy to remove the Chief Justice, but it's difficult to remove any of the Superior Court justices? If you look at clause 1 to 4 of armed forces, you see how the process is. And then the Chief Justice alone, if you look at clause 6, I think 5, 6, 7, to deal with the Chief Justice, it made the Chief Justice vulnerable to what? Adversarial politicians, and who was seeking to fulfill political pledges and campaign pledges could easily attack the Chief Justice. And I think that those lacuna gaps should be resolved. And now that we have Constitutional Review Commission and that these things have come up at this time, it should be looked at against. But in fairness to the learned scholar, he has preferred an opinion. And, well, the status quo ante now is what is in the law. What he proposes once I think it's part of the constitutional review thing. It's something that he can propose to the state.
Then he made a second one about the composition of the 5-member committee that has been put up to investigate the petitions that have been brought against the Chief Justice. He says, and I read, I think that where the removal petition pertains to a Chief Justice, no sitting judge should be included in the 5-person removal committee that is constituted to hear the petition. In other words, none of CJ's judicial peers must be made to sit in judgments on a removal petition involving their judicial colleague or boss, or as they are likely to have an interest in the outcome of the case. We could use retired jurists or other retired career public servants, preferably appointed by a special committee of the Council of State in place of sitting judges. The 3 other non-lawyer members of the removal committee could also be selected through a more politically inclusive, diverse or neutral process, as opposed to being appointed, as Article 146 currently provides, by the President in consultation with the Council of State. Better to keep a president out of the process, except to implement, after the fact, the final outcome of the process as determined by the removal committee.
It's a good idea. It is part of the advancing reason to secure the independence of what? Of the judiciary, and try to insulate it from the hands of what? Adventurous politicians. And going back through our history, I think it's a fair comment. And now that the Constitutional, for those who believe in the Constitutional Review Committee, I don't believe in the Constitutional Review Committee and all that they are doing. No. I think that is, to some extent, we have given it more weight than it deserves. But for a view of this nature coming from him, fine, because you see, even the Council of State role is not neutral. The Council of State role in all this is not neutral. The President appoints how many of the Council of State? Almost 16. 10. The election process is such that you get your political friends, you can get them out of the election of 16. You may get maybe say 12 or 13 of people who are close to your political party. And then the president appoint 10 more. I think 10 or so more. I think some of them with specific office they held, like the Chief of Defense Staff, former Chief Justice, or former IGP. So it is still a political office. What they are expected to do better than they would have ordinarily do is to ensure that such people will not be too partisan to the extent that in camera they could advise the president. But you see, the advice the Council of State would prefer or give to His Excellency the President on certain matters, he is not bound to attend you. This is a mere advice. So for me, if you think that the Council of State's involvement will make the thing look neutral, I entirely hold a different view. It is a political institution fixed by the President and who fixes his own people to help him go through his duties of office as head of state. So technically, the Council of State rule is not that too neutral, but the view suggested by Mr. Prempe is a very good thing that can be looked at, because the process, at least the suggestions he has made, for me, are useful. Said that, you see, we have reduced everything we are doing in our country to politics, partisan politics. And so whatever you say, whatever suggestions you make, the debate you make on issues, once it doesn't favor somebody, it doesn't look at the wisdom behind it, but will attribute a political position to you. That is the problem we have. And I think that 30 years is enough for us to have grown beyond this kind of me and you politics. Yes.
Right. There are some who have also said that this is just a suspension. Suspension doesn't mean that she has been removed from office. For all you know, the Chief Justice could make a comeback. And so why are people trying to sort of jump the gun? I mean, this is just a suspension for investigation to be conducted. For all you know, she'll be called back.
Well, those terms are there interdiction, suspension, whatever. They are all there in labor law and those things. But the question is that if the Chief Justice terms of conditions is being implemented, terms of condition of employment is being implemented, as I told you, I don't have any problem. You may be suspended and investigation may be done against you, or you may have to step aside for investigation to be conducted into your tenure of office or whatever. There are times if the committee is fair and the facts are clear and you are fairly heard, you by the end of the day you come out with what? Flying colors. So well, if a person is suspended and the exercise and the whole engagement proves that she did nothing wrong and she's coming back to the office. But from where I sit, I am saying that the little that is known to me, I don't have the entire fact because the inquiry is being conducted in camera. I don't think the woman has done anything wrong.
Right. So, well, you don't think the woman have? Well, again, concerns that people get suspended and they get recalled, or they still give their position to them. But many have also said that in cases like this, they are trying to be preemptive, and I don't want to go with their thoughts. Anyway, you're still listening to the forum here on Asaase Radio 99.5 in Accra. The forum is also live on Asaase Radio 99.7 in Tamale, 100.3 in Cape Coast, 98.5 in Kumasi. Alternatively, we're also streaming live on Facebook. Do join us with your thoughts and comments. It's never a forum until you send us your thoughts and your comments. So I'll be looking forward to reading them. I mentioned earlier that I'll be dedicating a huge chunk of the time on the show to reading your comments and sharing them with the rest of the world. So look forward to that. I'll keep my promise on that. So yeah, let me say hello to Kwesi Batchvey, private legal practitioner and a member of the NPP communications team. Kwesi, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the forum.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you, my brother.
Right, good morning. How has your morning been so far?
So far, it's been good. I was enjoying the analysis of senior, and so it's been a wonderful morning so far. Currently, let me say a very good morning to the leadership of the New Patriotic Party.
Right.
And a very special good morning as well to the flag bearer, the former Vice President, His Excellency Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. They departed from Accra no long ago to start their thank you tour in the Western region. Today, they will be in the Western North region tomorrow, and then from there move to the Ahafo region, the Bono region, and then I think the Ashanti region. It's a 16-day non-stop tour, and so we wish them the very best. I will be joining them, God willing, on Tuesday to thank the good people of this country.
Right. Well, so let me just jump into it. The president, after receiving the 3 petitions submitted for the removal of the Chief Justice, forwarded them to the Council of State for them to determine a prima facie case. Upon that determination, the president again put up together a 5-member committee to probe the petitions that have been brought against the Chief Justice. But the Chief Justice has been suspended. Now, the president did this in the ambit of the law, expressing the 146 of the Constitution. The NPP describes the president's action as unconstitutional and absurd. What is absurd about what the president did?
Thank you very much. For me, I think the president is only abusing the powers he has and abusing the discretion he has. To start with, you see, this whole issue about the suspension or the removal of the CJ cannot be isolated from the background. It cannot be isolated from the statements and comments passed by the leadership of the NDC, particularly their national chairman, Mr. Johnson Asiedu Ketia, and their deputy general secretary, Mr. Mustafa Bande, who prior and post-election 2024 have made categorical statements mentioning that their party, the National Democratic Congress, is committed to removing Madam Gertrude Tokuno. And so if you have political actors within the ruling government expressing the commitment and dedication of the current government to remove the Chief Justice, that makes the entire processes and the entire, issues surrounding the suspension and the removal of the CJ more political than legal, because it looks as if the NDC is bent and the NDC is determined to remove the CJ. But I ask myself, why would a political party be so obsessed with the Chief Justice to, see her out of office? What exactly do they stand to gain? What do they want from the Chief Justice? Because from my opinion, the entire removal is premeditated. And if you look at the actions and the inactions of the NDC, it also comes to point to the fact that it is an orchestrated and engineered, agenda to get the Chief Justice out at all costs. But I think that if we look at the provisions of Article 146, it's a gray area. The case of Ejaichum dealt with the Premier Facie as to whether or not Premier Facie case ought to be established before the committee is set up, like Senior clearly mentioned. The case of Ataderi also got to do with whether or not the publication of the petition invalidated the entire process and rendered the entire process void. And so the entire Article 146, in my opinion, is a gray area that I think that is an area of study for both lawyers and students of the law. And so this government should tread cautiously in, exploring the provisions of Article 146, particularly with the suspension of the CJ, because I have heard certain learned seniors and colleagues make the argument that if you look at the provisions of Article 146(10), it suggests that the president may suspend the Chief Justice, which clearly provides that it's a discretionary power. And so the discretionary power ought to be exercised in accordance with Article 296. And Article 296C clearly provides that in the exercise of such discretionary power under Article 146(10), where the person exercising the discretionary authority or power is not a judge or a judicial officer, there shall be a regulation either by a constitutional instrument or a legislative instrument to govern the exercise of such discretion. So the question lawyers are asking is that where is the constitutional instrument governing the president's exercise of the discretionary power under Article 146(10) to suspend the CJ? Like Senior has said, there's nothing like that. So that brings you to the unconstitutionality of the entire process. Because I am sure in the framers of the Constitution, they decided, or the framers of the Constitution intended to protect the sanctity of the judiciary. That is why the entire Article 146(10),
not even the judiciary alone. Anybody who holds a public office or a citizen of the Republic of Ghana, if his conduct is should be what? It should be subjected to the due process.
Yeah.
I mean that's very important. Anybody, all of us sitting here.
Yeah.
The fact that you are a citizen of the Republic, the fact that you are accorded fundamental rights and freedoms, the fact that you must respect the due process means that the due process must be respected.
Yeah.
There should not be a exercise of discretionary power to the extent that it is exercised to the disadvantage of the citizen. Even in criminal practice, where the person is not represented, the court is to be extra cautious to the extent that there will be justice. And you deal with a whole Chief Justice like you're dealing with somebody.
Yeah. So I think that.
So in that case, where the Constitution, sorry to interrupt, where the Constitution doesn't make that provision, how is that the fault of the president?
It is the fault of the president, because I've just mentioned to you that Article 146(10) gives the president the discretion that the president may or may not suspend a Chief Justice. And in the exercise of such discretion,
may or may not.
No, it may. But if it may, it means the president may also not decide to, suspend it. That's what I'm saying, may or may not. So in the exercise of such discretion, Article 296 is very fundamental. And the processes of Article 296 requires that, or the provisions of Article 296 requires that there ought to be a constitutional instrument or a legislative instrument to govern the discretion given to the president under Article 14610. This is to ensure that the discretion given to the president by the Constitution is not abused. Else we may have a president who, at the instance of any frivolous petition, will say, I have, suspended a Chief Justice.
What do you mean by frivolous? Because the Council of State needs to establish a prima facie.
That's what I'm saying, that, that's why I premised my entire argument on the fact that the entire Article 146 is a grey area. Like Senior said, the prima facie didn't exist in the past until the case of AG Ayine. The publication of the petitions and the responses invalidating the entire process did not exist until the case of Atadei. So you could clearly see that the entire Article 146 is a grey area of study for practitioners and students. And so I am only calling for due process. I am only calling that we respect the tenets of the Constitution. We respect the Constitution and respect the rule of law. The NDC and the element of the NDC should not be eager to engage in a constitutional lawlessness, activity or venture. They should tread cautiously. Let us take our time. I am not saying that if we think or if there is sufficient evidence that the CJ has committed an offense, or the CJ, if you look at Article 146, the CJ or a justice of the Superior Court may be removed basically on two grounds: infirmity of mind and body, and upon a stated misconduct. Now, we do not even know what a stated misconduct is. I have not seen the legal definition of what a stated misconduct is, because you see, what may be a stated misconduct, let's say in the judiciary, may not necessarily be a stated misconduct when it comes to matters of the legislature. And so what stated misconduct is in the first place is also an entire grey area that ought to be explored. Senior categorically mentioned that when you talk about the travel, malfeasance and the travel issues, it is the duty of the AG to interrogate the issues, ask questions, and bring its findings out. After the AG, the Auditor General has brought its findings out, it is the duty of the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament to interrogate the report and the recommendations of the Auditor General. Is it the case that now when public officers engage in, granted without admitting public officers engage in, audit malfeasances or financial malfeasances, then directly we can say that we are removing them even without even giving them a proper hearing? Even in a criminal trial, the accused person ought to know the kind of offense that he or she is responding to.
The Chief Justice responded to the petitions. Was
the petition, were the petitions given to the Chief Justice, at their own volition of the president? The Chief Justice had to request for the petitions.
She responded to
no,
it.
But she had to. So that you see, this whole thing has to do with intention and motive. Motive is very senior arguing that motive and intentions are two cardinal things in law. When especially if you want to establish the guilt of any person, the entire motive and intention of this entire process is to ensure that the Chief Justice is out at all costs, which I think defeats the entire purpose of this procedure. And so, like I said earlier on, the drafters or the framers of this constitution decided to protect the sanctity of the judiciary, and I am sure that is why the entire provisions of Article 146 is shrouded in secrecy, so that just in case any justice or the CJ engages in any illegal activity, the matter could be dealt with in camera, so that at least the public will not get to know the dirty linens of the judiciary. And this is basically, in my opinion, to protect the sanctity and the dignity of the judiciary. And so if you have issues like this, and you have elements within the ruling government, even before the petition could be published online, were on radio stations, TV stations, explaining and giving details of the petition. Clearly, one may ask, how did they get access to the petition? Because you have the National Communications Officer of the NDC, sometime on Tuesday or Wednesday, sit on a radio station. He broke the news about the travel officers, and he categorically mentioned that he had seen the response of the CJ, and the CJ had admitted to those allegations.
Yes, Eden Bana even said on Twitter that she's agreed to it and started paying the state back the money. Did you read that?
I saw that. And so, you see, this is clearly an affront to the decision of the Supreme Court in the Alter Derry case. It is clearly, because the Supreme Court says if you publish the petition or the response, it invalidates the process and renders the process void. And you have members within the government, members of parliament of this government, saying that the CJ has admitted. How did you know that the CJ has admitted to
maybe
these allegations?
Leaked copies of it, and the fact if
you are an astute journalist. When did you see the leaked copies of it? As at the time, Kwabena and Gyamfi and Co were giving details of the petition and the CJ's response, it had not yet been leaked, because Ghana Web was the first online agency to publish it, and they published it sometime on Wednesday evening. But this post you read to me was made sometime on Tuesday. So how did they get to know? You understand? So I think that politicians must be careful, and I am very sad. I am very sad that, you see, when matters of the legislature come up and it borders on the sanctity and dignity of the legislature, you realize that both caucuses come together to protect. When matters of the executive come up, you realize that all ministers, all chief executive officers, all director generals come together to protect the sanctity of the executive. Why are members of the judiciary quiet?
The judiciary cannot talk.
They should be able to. But I think that this borders on the head of the judiciary, and the judiciary shouldn't think this is just a fight against the CJ. I think that it will be unfortunate for them to think that it's a fight against the CJ if we don't take care, and this action succeeds. Any president that comes can decide to target members of the judiciary. It is going to set an extremely bad precedent for members of the judiciary. And so I am respectfully and humbly calling on our revered and respected justices to come out, to speak, to at least condemn or call for due process in these matters, because this is going to serve as a precedent. I have also heard members of my party say that if this action succeeds and the MPP also comes to power, God willing, in 2020, any CJ that is appointed will also be removed. This is not good for our democracy.
Are you rehashing that here?
So I am saying that if this succeeds, it is going to create a bad precedent. So why don't we just stop this from happening, so we don't create, some form of precedent for ourselves in the future?
Many people label the NPP government, when Akufo-Addo was in power, said that there was a lot of perceived judicial bias, which is why the then former president, John Dramani Mahama, said that if he becomes president, he's going to reset the judiciary. Were you in the least surprised when you saw the 3 petitions? And now we're even learning that there are 2 additional petitions, making it 5. Yes.
It means the ground for succeeding in the 3 is probably not enough, or is not sufficient.
Well,
and I haven't realized they will fail. They will then have to bring in additional ones, supplementary payslip or supplementary affidavit.
So, though we have the process ongoing at the moment, we've had 2 other petitions, which strengthen the case that many have posited that there is indeed judicial bias, which is why we've seen these petitions against the Chief Justice.
You see, during the presidency of President Akufo-Addo, I heard such claims, but all persons who made such claims were unable to substantiate such claims. What is judicial bias? You go to court with, respectfully and humbly, a very weak and porous case. You lose. You come to the media and come and say that the judiciary is for one person. We also what happened in the election petition case of 2020. We also what happened. If that process was not showed or aired on TV, these people would have come back to the media to say that they have done their thing again.
But when people say that, for instance,
but we all saw what happened during the 2020 election petition case, where the petitioners themselves even did not have their own data. You go to court without any evidence, you go to court without any backing, and you expect to win the case. I have never seen that before. And I'm maybe senior is here, maybe he's been in the practice for a long time. How do you win a case without any evidence?
People have also said that her seniors were overlooked and she was promoted over them.
Promoted to where?
Promoted to be Chief Justice. I mean, there were people who were...
But which law suggests or proposes that the most senior at the Supreme Court ought to be the CJ? Which law?
Was really not made a substantive Chief Justice in 2000. If that argument people want to sponsor that. Why was Justice Redu not made substantive Chief Justice in 2000 when he was the longest and the most senior, the longest serving person on the bench? If the argument is true, why was Redu was not made a substantive and they had to put it down after the election, only for them to lose the election and Redu become Chief Justice by President Kufuor? Why? Some of these permutations are absolutely wrong. If the Chief Justice was made a Chief Justice, the law does not require the President. The requirements in the Constitution is clear. Yeah. When the person has served 15 years and satisfied all the integrity issues, he can be appointed to go through the due process. And if he's appointed, it is not the appointment alone is not enough. Yeah. He goes through the due process. Justice Apelu went through the due process. When the people of Amakotofor felt that his appointment was wrong, he went to the Supreme Court and it was set aside. Yeah. So the person is appointed, he satisfies all the criteria, the checklist. He goes through it, he's appointed. Yes, he goes to vetting, you ask him all manner of questions you have to ask him. The same people approve him, and then the same people then come back and say that some other seniors were overlooked. Overlooked.
So that argument is
totally the NPP says that as part of their thank you tour, they would be launching a huge demonstration against the suspension of the Chief Justice.
So it is not the NPP that says that. It is the other political parties other than the National Democratic Congress. So it is the NDP, Kofi Apalu's party, PNC, PNP.
It's a breakaway fashion from the PNC.
Okay. Okay. So all the other, political parties with the support of the NPP.
Right.
Or let me say, all the opposition political parties, have come together, have realized the unconstitutional, issues surrounding this very suspension, and have decided to protest, because we have spoken in the media. The president has decided not to listen. The Council of State, I don't know what is happening, but I've also decided not to listen. In fact, I am hearing rumors that the venerable former CJ, Madam Sophia Kufa, to restrain herself from voting. I have not verified that.
Well, but there are still claims that we can't independently substantiate.
We can confirm the content of the petition, the responses of the Chief Justice. If that is the denial you put across, and all the people who reason like you, then we can affirm that is authentic, that these were the responses of the Chief Justice. What kind of republic is this?
So I think that let's just follow due process. Let's respect. And you see, you find the NDC people trying to equate the removal of Charlotte Osei, Madame Charlotte Osei, with the removal of
Madame. Yeah, they were saying that in her case, she wasn't extended courtesy to even look at the petition.
But you see, Madame Charlotte Osei's allegations were made by her own deputies.
They just killed themselves.
Yes, and Madame Charlotte Osei also made allegations against her deputies for their removal. So it was an internal theft war. They themselves, crucified themselves. But you see, Madame Charlotte Osei's position can never be the same as that of the head of the judiciary. It can never be the same. The head of the judiciary, the CJ, is the whole head of an arm of government. And you see, what this government is trying to do is to use constitutional means to hijack both the legislature and the judiciary. Now they have an overwhelming, majority in parliament. They also want to hijack the judiciary, which I think that, you see, nobody should be happy about what is going on. Nobody should be happy that by virtue of a change of government, the CJ has to go, or the CJ's appointment is now, being construed as coterminous to that of the president. It is a very, very, very dangerous thing, to pursue. So let us be extremely careful that our judiciary is not politically, tainted. Let us protect the independence, the integrity, the credibility, the dignity, the sanctity of the judiciary, because the judiciary is the beacon of our democracy. The judiciary is the backbone of our democracy. Let us protect. Let us not allow political actors to drag our judiciary like they are doing now. And you find, everybody is quiet. Basically, stakeholders in the judiciary are quiet. I find it a bit strange.
No, but the Ghana Bar Association has commented.
Yes, they have also called for due process, and I agree with what they have said, calling for due. We are all calling for due process, but you see, like I told you, the entire issue cannot be separated from the background. When you have activists of the NDC expressing their commitment or expressing their satisfaction with the suspension of the CJ and going ahead to say that the CJ will be removed at all costs. For the first time in the Fourth Republic, this is the first time in the Fourth Republic that a political party, as part of its promises to the Ghanaian people, promised to remove the CJ.
Well, Esiedun Ketia said that. That's not what he said. He just said.
Oh no, but Mustafa Bande just. If you want me to mention the name of the network, I'll mention that.
He just said that
2 weeks ago,
a reset in the judiciary, but didn't express thought of commitments to remove the CJ.
I have just referred to you that the Deputy General Secretary Mustafa Bande last Sunday, he wanted me to mention the name of the network on TV3. He mentioned that the CJ was going to be removed. It was a categorical statement. He's the Deputy General Secretary and the Deputy Director of Operations for the presidency. He runs all the operations in the presidency. And such a person is telling you that the CJ will be removed, and you don't expect us to believe it. Who will believe what they are saying? And so let us tread cautiously. Let us not.
When they've been able to retire 15 3-4-star generals. 15 3-4-star generals.
See, before we go on, I want to pick your thoughts on the composition of the 5-member committee that has been put to probe the petitions brought against the Chief Justice. What are your thoughts?
I think that I will only admonish them that they shouldn't be at the beck and call of the president. They should have exercised their independent judgment, in this issue. They are persons of, they are astute persons, and so I expect the nation. Right now, the destiny of the nation is in their hands. They can decide to crash it or protect it. It is in their hands, and their children and grandchildren will grow up and get to know what they did. So it is time for them to leave the former Auditor General, who has always wanted to be a statesman. This is the time for him to exhibit his statesmanship. This is the time for him to exhibit, his fidelity to the Constitution. And so we just wish them well. We caution them to be extremely independent. They shouldn't do the bidding of the president or the government. They should interrogate the issues properly. And I wish, like Senior mentioned, maybe somebody should go to the Supreme Court to, seek an interpretation about this whole secret in-camera thing. Because just imagine this committee meeting being aired in the media. Everybody would be able to know the content of the petition, the responses of the CJ, and the public can make a determination for themselves as to whether or not they are with any merit or otherwise. And so, but unfortunately, the current position of the law does not allow that. And so we only wish them well. And we hope and pray that they will come out with, a very sound and legal reasoning.
But again, they've been saying that this is just a suspension. This is not removal. Why does it look like the NPP and the other parties are crying more than...
Respectfully and humbly, in your entire years of being a journalist, when have you ever seen a public officer suspended come back to office?
There's always the first time.
No, so are you really saying that? And the first time should be the head of the judiciary?
But there's nothing wrong. That one.
Anyway.
You see, this idea of perceiving judges not to be on their side or whatever, it didn't start today. After the 31st December case, through party influence, a certain young Apollo was sponsored to remove Justice Adade from the Supreme Court. That was in 1992, 93, 94. And Justice Adade was removed. Justice Adade was removed.
Your point?
Political influence, fulfilling party campaign pledge, massaging the due process, and sometimes not knowing what people want. But even if they want it, they manage the process in such a way that it raises questions. That Sadali was removed. There was another judge, Nii Kpakpo. The circumstances by which he left, there were questions. By 2000, the most senior person, when Aban was not well and had to go through medical treatment, it was obvious that the establishment was not happy with Justice Redo. There were times that even before government took certain things to court, they were trying to seek the opinion of the judiciary, because in those days MPP was giving them a lot of troubles in the courts over government policy, whether they are right or wrong, and how it has been implemented. You see, our Supreme Court is different from that of India.
Right.
In India, the Supreme Court can prefer an opinion on government policy. In our case, the Supreme Court is here to deal with contentious issues. And therefore, as an independent arm of government, it does not suggest or make its views to government policy.
Right.
It is your Attorney General who must advise you on your government policy. So what happened was that there were times the government was not even sure of what a matter, if goes to court, will be. So they wanted the opinion of the Justice Redo said no. The Supreme Court of Ghana is there to deal with what? Contentious issues. And there's no powers to what? To advise what? Government. Yes. This is something people didn't take it kindly at all. And vowed that if the NDC were to win the 2000 elections, they knew who would be made the Chief Justice. So they had to make him act. Redo acted after the election. That President Kufuor made him a substantive word, Chief Justice. So this idea of perceived, yes, didn't start today. Number two, the people you talk about have been nominated. I don't know. There is also some information around that. A Supreme Court judge, there is a petition against a Supreme Court judge.
Yes, Justice Palmer.
And then he had been made the chairman of this committee. I rest my case.
Well, those are all allegations. Well, let's see how that pans out. But let me just read some of your comments on Facebook.
Which one are allegations? The petition or
the petition against the chairman of the 5-member committee? Well, I haven't cited that yet. Okay. So independently, I cannot confirm.
Okay.
I'll share it with you, don't worry.
Right. Christopher Abe says it is finished. The CJ is not coming back. In fact, she should be happy to be alive. That is the character of the NDC. A Pandora box has been opened by the NDC. Nobody should say a word when a different government does the same or even worse. By JDM's operations, I feel Ghanaians were too harsh on the former president, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo. And that's a comment from Christopher Ape. Kojo Ifriye says, Asaase Radio, the voice of our land. Of course, we are the voice of the land. Yes, so I would entreat you, if you're listening to or watching us on Facebook, you have any thoughts or comments to share on the stories that we are discussing this morning,
Please feel free and share them. I'll be sharing the rest of the word. This is still the forum with me, Fritz Delanyo Amegashie. You're hearing earlier from Kwesi Batchvey, private legal practitioner, and of course, member of the NPP communications team, Alex Gyamfi as well, private legal practitioner. And they have been, expressing their thought on the suspension of the CJ. One other topic, though, that gained traction this week was the Tamale doctors laying down their tools, saying that they feel disrespected by the health minister, Kwabena, and so therefore they are not going to work. As we speak, there is an ongoing strike at the Tamale Teaching Hospital. Patients who show up at the outpatient departments are being turned away. Very serious situation. In essence, Tamale Teaching Hospital in crisis. We'll take a listen to the minister because after his first working visit to the place where he had that altercation with doctors that went viral and called into question the professionalism and dedication of the doctors of the hospital, he's gone back after the doctors asked for certain equipment to be provided before they return to the ward to present some equipment. And the doctors, remember, that are also calling on the minister for an unqualified apology. That hasn't happened yet, but the minister said he's open to having a conversation with the doctors on the way forward. We'll take a listen to the minister when he visited the hospital after the first altercation. We'll come back into the studio and find out the thought of our guests.
Please, that for the past 2-3 days, I have been speaking to stakeholders in this sector. And please, it isn't everything we can put out there as leaders. I am prepared for us to come around the table and discuss whatever we need to discuss. And so my humble appeal to my wonderful medical doctors and health professionals at Tamale Teaching Hospital is that I am the first person to take care of your interest. And therefore, let's call off the strike and let's all regroup and strategize going forward. There are some of the things we can easily do with our internally generated funds. Please, let's confront the issues as they are. It is just not sustainable for government to keep donating equipment to health facilities, and at the end of the day, when the equipment are obsolete, we run back to government for money to either maintain or to replace this equipment. Once at least, even if we are not charging the requisite fees, we generate something small out of these machines. What happens to the money? There must be a new direction. And we all group together and think through it. Maybe I'm looking at it from a different direction. We will share ideas. Let's pursue the interests of the ordinary Ghanaian. I thank you.
Honorable, you are appealing that they call off the strike.
Please, hold on. The message is clear. I'm sure if we want to open up for questions, we would.
Well, that was the Minister of Health, Kwabena, at the Tamale Teaching Hospital when he visited this week to present equipment to the doctors because they had requested after that altercation that gained social media currency. Well, the doctors are still striking. Patients are still being turned away. Tamale Teaching Hospital at the moment is in crisis. Let me come to my guest in the studio. I would love to begin with you, Alex Gyamfi. I don't know if you saw that altercation when he went on a working visit after a patient died at the hospital, and it was alleged that it was as a result of the negligence of the doctors. That altercation between the doctors and the health minister wasn't pleasant. In response, the doctors laid down their tools. They felt they were spited or they were slighted
slighted. And later on the Tuesday, they've been on strike for some time now. There's nothing happening at the hospital. Your thought?
Thank you very much. Do unto others what you want others to do unto you. Do unto others what you want others to do unto you. It's not that the old adage. The minister, we have satire is very, very important. You see, when you assume public office, your job is not necessarily a political job. Your job is the job for the service of what? Of the state. It is always, it's true that it's not all the time that you can be above board. But once we accord you a certain social status in the society, your temperament should be weighed. Was it really necessary for the minister to have confrontation in the manner it happened with the director of the hospital? And is the minister prepared to say that, I am sorry, or let's find a meaningful way of dealing with these issues? I think the incident should not have happened. But fine, we are human beings. It has happened. How do you address it? You see, sometimes just one or two words will repair huge damage. And these are things we have learned from our infancy up to where we are today. And therefore, our communication is important. When the minister went back to give them the equipment they had spoken about, did you hear the full statement he made? Trying to indict somebody completely as if the previous government did nothing for Tamale Teaching Hospital. As if in the health sector, the previous government did nothing. And it's like, where they left in 2016 is what they have come to continue. I mean, some of these things, the fact will speak for itself. So, even though I'm not happy with the manner in which the strike, we pray that our friends will temper justice with mercy and go back to work. I think as of yesterday night, I heard some intervention from the Tamale chiefs.
Yeah, the Dagmon chiefs.
Yes,
yeah.
Something like that. The intervention has calmed down certain things. And we are praying that the traditional council or the chiefs or whoever is involved will do more to bring them to work. I am praying seriously for that. You see, Tamale Hospital is a very unique hospital. It's a referral hospital for almost 6 regions. Upper East, from Wa Hospital or any of the hospitals in Upper East, Upper West, Northeast, the Damango area, and Tamale itself, and certain areas of, I think, Uti will even be better to come to Tamale than to come to the south, to say, hospital. So, yes, because yes, from those who are closer to the Bupe in Bono East, yes, they find it easier to come to Tamale than to go to Sunyani or go to Kumase. And so if you position the hospital in the context I have done, you will see that you are dealing with probably 1/3 of the population or 40% probably of the republic. And so if it's your duty to ensure that such institutions work to the level that will give the people affordable health care, you don't make the mistakes the minister is making. And you see, again, I heard something about the officer's termination of his appointment or something like that. What were the terms of the person's employment? To the extent that the minister can just wake up, get up to do the things he did. What is the essence of the Ghana Health Service? What is the role of the health service in this matter? that the health service, which is the administrative body of the Ministry of Health in running some of the teaching hospitals, or even if there is a separate way of running the teaching hospitals and the person in charge is employed under particular reference, will it be easier for the minister to do the things he did? You see, there is a case that went on. You remember the Winneba, the vice chancellorship matter. You remember Ghana Institute of Journalism, how these two officers were removed from office, and when they went to court, what happened to the Republic? So sometimes we need to be careful in the decisions we take, and then in an attempt to satisfy our political positions and supporters, we make things look like if we don't act in this manner, Armageddon will descend. Where would Armageddon come from? If somebody had died in a manner that people don't understand, do you not use the same medical due process to get to know? Is it difficult to find out from the medical cause of death of that particular person? So, I think that we should not be fighting in this direction. But the minister's conduct must also be reviewed. It's not a fair thing to be doing things of this nature. And when you go there to denigrate somebody else. Meanwhile, we knew the state of Tamale Hospital before 2016, and now. Right. So sometimes when people do this, it's as if they forget to know that the matter will speak for itself at the appropriate time.
Mr. Gyamfi, before I go to Kwesi, I want you to tell us what the law says about essential service workers embarking on a strike action. These are not just any workers, these are doctors who are responsible for saving the lives of people. Can they just say that because they feel slighted by what the minister did, just go on strike?
Fine, that's a very good idea. You see, they are banned from demonstration and those things. There is a caveat everywhere to any law you make. Is it because that the people are banned from going to demonstration and these things, they can be treated anyhow? So that's why I'm saying that the minister's intervention for me was unwarranted. He could have referred whatever has happened to what? To the Director General of Ghana Health Service. And the matter would have been dealt with. He, as the minister, supervised a whole lot of groups and institutions under his authority, and each of them has a reporting head. So what would have happened if the minister had taken the phone to call the Director General and draw the attention of what has happened in Tamale? We need wisdom to guide our thoughts. So the fact that the person is exempted from the demonstration, does it make that you keep the person's mouth shut? So I'm saying that let's look at ways to deal with the matter more meaningfully. I concede that there are issues there. But I'm saying that when the minister became aware of all these things in his visit to the place, what would have been wrong if the minister had picked a phone to call the Director General or the reporting head of the resident officer? Wouldn't it have been better than what has happened? So we talk to the parties to soften their stance. We talk to the parties to do better than what they are doing. But the minister is the ultimate person for Ghana Health Services Administration or managing the Ministry of Health. Ought to have been careful, in his actions. We need to look at these things again.
Kwesi, I spoke to Mr. Anani Jinde yesterday about the strike by the Tamale Teaching Hospital doctors. He said that under the Labour Act, considering the action, it was not valid. It was illegal for them to embark on the strike.
I mean, to say it is illegal, I will hasten slowly on that, because it is within their rights to also, embark on strike actions, and so. But it depends. You see, matters like this, we need.
But can you say you go on a strike action because you say, my boss has disrespected me? So
it's not about disrespecting you. It's about infringing on the right of the employee. This is their medical director. It's about infringing, embarrassing the medical director, in the full glare of the media. It is an infringement of the human rights of the medical director, and in solidarity with their medical director, they have every right to embark on strike, actions. But you see, matters like this, I think that matters of judiciary, health, education shouldn't be seen or tackled from the political, perspective. Sometimes let us embrace consensus. Let us embrace negotiation rather than, using brute force or using robbing egos and those things. Those things will not help us. And I think that probably in the near future we need a law to, add the criteria of emotional intelligence when appointing people to certain offices. Because Mr. Gyamfi, you see, what happened at Tamale, like you clearly said, was avoidable. It was needless, totally needless. As a minister, you go to a hospital. They report to you that certain equipment are not working. And then you get angry at the medical director. My brother, you are the host of this show. If your boss or whoever should come here and the computer is not functioning, are you the one to be blamed? Are you the one responsible for replacing obsolete microphones and computers in this studio? Since when did it become the duty of medical directors to replace malfunctioning equipment in hospitals? If they are not getting, it goes through a process where, a medical device is malfunctioning. The medical director may report to maybe the regional health director. It may go through, a certain process. The medical director, even on its own, cannot just report the matter directly even to the minister that this machine is. It has to go through the bureaucratic process. And so I feel that with a little emotional intelligence, this matter would have been handled properly. I agree and consider the management of the hospital is incumbent upon the medical director. But I disagree that replacement of obsolete machines lies within the mandate of the medical director. His only duty is to bring to the attention of the authorities that be. And so I would not say much about this matter. But you see, again, I would borrow seniors' words that do unto others as you wish others to do unto you. If this matter had happened under President Akufo-Addo, you find CSOs and neutrals and everybody
you
saying
record that. Let me help you, my brother. You record that they said there was a vaccine they give to newborn babies.
Yeah.
And there was a shortage. And the president had traveled by a chartered flight to somewhere.
And they were equating the president
This
to
same
the
person
cost
who
of
is the minister today.
Right. I mean,
and so this, if those concerns were valid, then we can say on authority that this is a clear display of arrogance of power. Because but for power, you could not talk to a medical director who is a medical doctor for over 20 years, and then you, in the full glare of the media, you embarrass him as if he has no rights. I think it is the display of arrogance of power.
If the hospital is blamed for the negligence of the death of one person,
it hasn't been established. And is it the procedure the law outlines to what? To deal with the person if that is even established. That is the duty of the minister to go there to embarrass a medical officer in charge of a hospital.
So let's just say the minister.
That since when did we throw away the whole idea of civility?
Overzealous. That is where the emotional intelligence comes in. Because if you lack of emotional intelligence, you should even know that you are within the presence of a hospital. You see, there are certain things you don't do, but you see, it looks as if these NDC ministers, anytime they see camera, then they just want to pull up some action or show off or do something to, excite their base. But I think that they should tread cautiously. They should be very careful about some of these things. I agree with the cause for the reinstatement of the medical director. I agree with such cause. And I think yesterday I heard the minority, calling for a broader collaboration and consensus between the ministry and the officials of the Tamale Teaching Hospital. I think let's embrace that, because patients are not asked or are required to produce their political party cards before, are being attended to at the hospital. And so let's take the politics out of this issue. Let us face the issues head on. Like Senior said, NPP made massive investments in the health sector at the Tamale Teaching Hospital. Finance Minister Amin Nanta alone procured about 3 dialysis machines for the Tamale Teaching Hospital when they didn't even have a single dialysis machine. This government has made a lot of investment. Let's take the politics out. Let's face the issues head on, and let's tackle the issues and make sure that our people are being provided with quality health care, sustainable health care.
And when the doctors demanded the health minister to provide them some equipment, I think in less than some few hours, the minister was able to do that. But the doctors are saying that they are still not going if the minister doesn't render an unqualified apology. Equipment, yes, we might get that. But why are they still grandstanding? If you don't give us an apology, we are not going back.
I said, do unto others what you want others to do unto you. In the first place, before I respond to your question, the equipment provided by the minister, when were they procured? If you have to go through the procurement processes to acquire them, ordinarily this equipment would not probably have been done within the last 3 months. Meanwhile, he went there chastising the previous government. When you know when these these materials were procured. So let's look at that one. Number 2. You see, the concerns of the doctors, to some extent, are genuine. You never know when you also be subjected to similar indignities in the hands of a politician, of a zealous politician. But I'm saying that there have been intervention from the traditional council in Tamale or in Dagbon, and it tells you that the matter is not an ordinary situation. And so, whilst we advise our friends to go back to work, we also advise the minister to do more to repair the situation created by him than at least what the status quo is now. So I wouldn't side with anybody, because when the 2 elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers. So my position is clear. Whilst we talk to the doctors and the health workers to return to work, which I am told some have because of the intervention of the traditional council, I'm also asking the minister to do the needful, to do better than this. And he should let this one also guide him in his future endeavors, because it will not be easy to run a government ministry, especially when what happens, the government bears the ultimate responsibility. Yes. But he must know the terrain, that this is not activist politics they were doing in opposition. This is realism now. You come to confront with the facts. And that's where you deploy your entire experience to the service of the state. You should learn to do better than what it is. Yes. So I wouldn't side with anybody, but I think that for the interest of the people of Tamale and all the areas that seek the services of the facility, both parties have to work together.
Now, Kwesi, you were saying that for some of this government ministers, when they see the camera, they feel like they need to perform. Because following the minister's visit to this hospital, we saw, I don't know if you saw a video making rounds on social media. The Cape Coast Teaching Hospital was trying to put its house in order, awaiting the minister's visit. It looks like the visit by the minister is getting people to do the right thing.
I disagree. How do you validate that the video you saw from the Cape Coast Hospital is a recent video? How do you validate that?
There were no timestamps.
Exactly. So we cannot established. It cannot be established that the videos from the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital were videos taken after the minister's visit to the Tamale Teaching Hospital.
But this action by the minister is likely to put people on the
Nobody is condemning the minister's visit to Tamale Teaching Hospital. We are condemning the excesses, the confrontation, the altercation. I mean, these things
Unwarranted.
Absolutely unwarranted. They could have dialogued. They could have sat in an office. The minister could have asked the medical director, "What's the problem? This is the problem. Okay, then I have some machines for you that I would. We have machines in the medical stores. I would want to bring to you and all that." And so, because for all you see, it is a fact that even the budget for the ministries and agencies have not been approved yet by the Appropriations Committee of Parliament. And so, at what material point in time did the minister even initiate procurement proceedings to purchase these machines? So it means that these machines were probably already purchased by the SWA administration. You understand? And so let us, when it comes to matters of health, let us manage it very, very carefully. You see, let us manage it very carefully. The minister should exercise some emotional intelligence in handling some of these things, because you are dealing with professionals. The medical doctors are professional people. You, the minister, you are not a medical doctor. It is just by the grace of God and by virtue of your political affiliation, that is why you've been made minister. You understand? For health.
The grace of God and political affiliation. You served on the
I am saying
the
that
Committee of Parliament.
No, the fact that you serve on the Health Committee of Parliament doesn't necessarily mean that you are better than all medical doctors in this country.
And also,
and doesn't mean that you are the best person for the health minister job.
Okay,
do you know
doctor, right?
I agree, but that's what I'm saying, that you are dealing with professionals. Okay, in your line of duty, you are dealing with people who have gone to school. Some may have gone to school far ahead of you. Some may be intelligent than you. Some may be smarter than you.
It's always the case for everyone.
But I'm saying that if you are dealing with such persons, don't see yourself as above, those people. You should embrace dialogue, embrace consensus, embrace idea sharing. Don't feel superior than anybody, okay? Because for me, I think that what the minister did was totally needless and it was avoidable. We shouldn't entertain that. Routine inspection. President Mills, may so rest in peace, when he was alive, conducted routine inspections at customs. We never saw him enter into a confrontation with any official, even though he even went to see people taking bribes with his own eyes and observed, several
he lashed out at them.
But did he confront it? Was it
there was a lash out?
But was it, confrontational? It wasn't confrontational. There are ways, you express your dissatisfaction about issues, but you don't try to, exert your authority or powers over people. The powers has been given to you to manage people, and so let us. We only admonish them that they should do the right thing. In fact, we need all our health. We beg our health workers at Tamale, our brothers and sisters at Tamale should not suffer the collateral damage of the minister's irresponsible behavior.
And it's just so interesting that the minister has still not apologized.
He will not apologize.
Still not apologize.
He will not apologize.
And said,
like I said, it's a clear display of arrogance of power.
The last thing I heard, it said respect is reciprocal.
Yes.
So
can you imagine?
If the medical doctors want to be respected, they should also extend that same level of courtesy.
These are his words.
Respect is reciprocal.
We built. He was talking about how medical stores.
And this is not just
under the NDC. What happened to the medical stores?
Right.
The medical stores that was burnt down completely
almost every year,
and nothing was done to find out what really happened. The medical stores under them.
But let's look at the health issues in general. Just moving a bit away from the suspension, the strike by the doctors over there. This is not new to this administration, to the previous administration, and even the incoming administration. These problems have always existed in the health sector. The doctors have always called on the appropriate authorities to provide the equipment. But it looked like their concerns are not taken seriously. Because indeed, if these equipments were provided by the previous administration or the administration before that, I'm not sure that anybody would have lost their life as a result of the negligence and the lack of the equipment they are talking about. What should governments be doing to, invest heavily in the health sector so that problems of this nature doesn't occur?
Two things we are talking about. Lack of or inadequate supply of the equipment and negligence. Two things we are talking about.
Yeah.
Don't forget that government business is run by what? By resources of the state. And therefore what you have is what you can share. If the budget and appropriations are made and the budget is said that the allocation, the money is not there, you cannot provide adequate to everybody. But whatever everybody has is what you have to manage with. It is not an excuse for not delivering. But everything goes back to how much your budget is. The national kitty, what is in it.
Well, shouldn't we prioritize health? I mean, health is health.
Priority doesn't mean that. Priority doesn't mean that you've been able to do enough. Because there is always work to be done. So the problems in the health sector is not too different from the problems we say education. Roads. Take roads. You need proper road infrastructure to be able to what? To grow your GDP, to move around. Where is it? You need enough health facilities to protect and to ensure that you have a healthy population. So whilst I cannot hold brief for anybody, you can only distribute what you have. And so not all hospitals have complete equipment they need to be able to work. The last 18 months saw that Santehene personally intervening in putting Komfanochi together. It's not true.
Absolutely.
So it goes beyond the Republic alone. The government of Ghana alone should provide A, B, C, D to enhance health services. The stakeholders, the church is doing its part by opening hospitals that are run by them and improving their conditions of lives of people. The same way ordinary people who have made it in their communities and homes could assist delivery of health service. The same way institutions, home and abroad, oftentimes we see natives from certain communities soliciting health and materials and equipment and personnel from abroad to come and help their towns and villages. So not everything will get at the same time because of the resources, lack of it, or inadequate supply of it. But at least what the state is also doing, we must commend the state. I mean, we saw the previous government initiating over 111 hospitals. People thought it was too ambitious. Dr. Baumia says that after the COVID, they realized that over 88 districts don't have district hospitals. If you have grown or live in some of these areas before, then you see that even a snake bite is a huge matter, because from the distance of your village to the nearest clinic or chief compound, it's not easy. And this infrastructure, government started putting things together. So it's work in progress. It is not an event, work in progress. You need to do it in such a way that you have the resources to do it. Government wanted to complete the Agenda 111 within a particular year. Was it able? It was not because the resources were not forthcoming. But now that we are also having problems with the cutting of U.S. budget across the world on some of these services, it tells you that to put more pressure on us. And therefore, it's the duty of government and all the stakeholders to do more from within or without in such a way that we can raise the resource. But honestly, in all fairness to everybody and to every government, you cannot say that you provided everything the hospital or institution needs, even in the United States or the European countries and developed countries. There could be some places that certain things will be lacking,
right?
Because it is not easy to provide everything to 100%. But as I said, it's work in progress. And once we are doing something and we get to know that these are the other challenging areas, we must make effort to get certain things done.
Kwesi, the health of a nation is the wealth of a nation, as some may say. Are we making the right investments in the health sector to sort of avert some of these situations that occur? Because this problem that occur at the Tamale Teaching Hospital, for instance, if we had the equipment, if doctors were well motivated, everything was, going on well at the hospital, would it get to the point where doctors are saying that, well, we don't even have the right equipment to save life, which is why some of these death happens, and the public is quick to label them as negligence on our part?
I think that, you see, everybody needs to come on board to support our health sector. Government alone cannot do everything or meet the demands of the health sector. And so we all must come together to support the health sector. But the Eswal administration invested a lot in the health sector because President Akufo-Addo alone built and operationalized 5 polyclinics, built and operationalized about 8 to 7 district hospitals.
The Agenda 111
not agenda, no. Those ones were different from the Agenda 111 hospitals only started sometime after COVID, sometime in 2020. But from 2017, he started investing in some. You go to the Chefo-Praso District Hospital, you go to Tyne. In fact, for the Tyne, during the opening ceremony, I had the privilege to be there. He has constructed, and which was under the Eurojet investment, fund. Tepa District Hospital and Somenya and yes, Aferi and so many of them. And so the government did its best. But you see, the fact remains that Ghana is a third world country. And healthcare in a third world country, we all know that it is not up to as expected. And so as we improve upon our economy, we improve upon our basic social amenities, I think that healthcare, I do not think that any government can decide to abandon healthcare. Healthcare is part of the priorities of every government. Every administration, healthcare is part of its topmost, priorities. And so I think that we can do better. But let us all get involved. Let's just imagine like Otumfuo said to Asante Hene did. Every chief or paramount, chief within his enclave or jurisdiction is also championing contributions to either renovate or construct new hospitals for their, people. I'm sure that would help. That would help as well. And so let us make it a collective effort. Let us not only leave it in the hands of government. Government can do its best, but government cannot do everything. But I also do not think that, let us not make the excuse that the fact that we do not have the requisite equipment for healthcare means that health professionals can be negligent. Being negligent and not having the requisite medical tools are two separate issues. The fact that you do not have the requisite medical tools doesn't mean you need to be negligent. No, it's not a justification for being negligent. And so, in as much as we are advocating for, more investment and proper health equipment for them, the health professionals must also endeavor to do their best. These were the equipment you were trained with when you were in medical school and you were scoring good grades. Now you're on the field. We agree that they are not up to, top standard like you see in movies in the US and all those things. But let us, all come together support the health sector. Let me deviate a bit with the question you asked. That is why a lot of people were asking why any person would charter an air-med ambulance at 16,000 euros or pounds an hour to fly from Spain to Ghana for medical care. You understand? We are talking about Ghana not having the requisite health infrastructure. And you find a whole air med, chartered flight. We all know that air med is an ambulance flight. Somebody charter the flight.
What was the point?
From I'm saying that why would somebody charter an air med flight from Spain, in Gran Canaria, to Ghana to come and do what?
Who is that person?
We don't know. That is why, in times past, the government the opposition party was calling for an interrogation into some of these matters. But notwithstanding, I still think that the health sector needs more investment, needs more resources, needs more attention, needs to be prioritized for the well-being of all of us. When it comes to matters of health, like I said, it doesn't know political affiliation. Everybody too, eventually, one way or the other, will forsake. And so, let us be concerned about health investment.
Right. I want to pick your last thought on this subject before we look at the former head of the Signals Bureau, who's filed a defamation suit against the Attorney General. And one of the things that also came up during the health minister's visit, for instance, at the Ridge Hospital, was the maintenance culture that is visibly missing. He complained that the previous administration didn't prioritize that, which is why some of the equipment at the Ridge Hospital have been left in sorry states. Maintenance culture, it's always been on the table. We put up new infrastructure, and we're quick to say that let's prioritize it. And it's almost become like a rhetoric that we say all the time, and it doesn't happen. Because, again, if these equipments are well taken care of, are well serviced, I'm sure that there wouldn't be need for us to be, spending so much money to be able to procure some of them.
Well,
maintenance culture
is a straightforward matter. Maintenance culture is a general problem in Ghana. We've seen government projects being commissioned 6-7 months, a year. You find the extent of deterioration and decay in our own homes, and people buy cars, expensive cars that they can't even maintain. They create problems.
So it's a national problem. So
for me, it's a national problem, because I've seen every government talking about maintenance. Accra Sports Stadium was renovated at a point in time when people went back. As we speak, a Sipon, it's sitting there for nothing. We don't know the state of it. I think you understand, my brother.
Right.
A Sipon is sitting there. Last time that some journalists visited the place, you go and see the extent of decay, and it's close to the...
It's now a funeral ground and an event.
It's now close to... You see, we don't do... We seek offices, and we don't know or understand the functions of the office. But for the benefit the state will extend to it through the office we occupy is what we have become interested. It's like you've employed somebody. If you're in the private sector, you employ people, you will see the attitude of people. People will come into to interview, nice language, nice CV, this, that. And people come to your office. Then they will be counting days. After the month, first week, second week, then they are counting. They are not looking at what they are putting into the company for the company to generate the resources to be able to pay them, pay their social security, pay their tax, their welfare and everything, and enhance their lives. So the same way to the national state, it is not only the hospitals that have problems. That is why we raise certain fees from within the state institutions, so that some of these so-called minor maintenance could be done. The larger ones could be done by the state through the appropriate office and reporting. You see, the problem in most part of the institutions, the public service, is that either our reporting system is weak or government funding is what? Inadequate. Government funding is inadequate. Go to the universities. Some of the areas that are paying for the user services, that is a bit up. They are able to maintain their halls and those things better than the traditional halls, where the fees paid by the students are not even enough to keep their lights and other things on. So the general maintenance culture is a problem, and we need to look at it. I think we need to ensure that we hold people accountable through the due process. I am not saying that even the Tamale issue and the other issue, if somebody had done wrong. My problem is the manner in which the issue was approached. Yes, anywhere you are given a job, you are given responsibilities, and you must live to the terms of what? Of your employment. If you need to replace such a person, go through the same due process you refuse to employ him, than to sidestep the rules. So general problem, yes, that one is true. Maintenance is a major problem. Roads, we spend so much money to construct roads, and look at the way we destroy the roads. Vehicles will be involved in accident or whatever, or vehicles will have problems on the road and will be parked. And when the people work on it, the what they call fitters, they work on it, and the oil they will pour on the asphalt, it weakens it to the extent that very soon you see potholes developing. So whose job it is? People overload vehicles in the presence of officials in the port and other places, and all these things will affect the quality of the road. The other people who use the axle machine to check the weight of these vehicles, how honest are people in all these sectors? So this one, you cannot hold the minister or somebody at the top alone responsible, but you must also deal with the whole chain from the lowest to the highest level and bring some consciousness in.
Right. Let me go to some of the comments most of you have been sending to us. And of course, we appreciate your presence for connecting with us on Facebook, on the forum on Asaase Radio 99.5 in Accra. This one from Baba Hassan says, it was all planned out to bombard the presidency with more petitions to make it look like they are following due process. And I'm sure that that comment is coming on the back of the two other additional petitions that have been submitted for the removal of the Chief Justice. Pedro Medina Cruz, I hope I got the name right. He says, I'm watching live and clear inside Kumasi, Keswing Junction, the main location. Kweku Ohime Wache says, this health minister should have been the Minister for Farmers Association. What sort of behavior is this? Politicians don't learn, as he concludes. Now, Abdul Basit Mahama says, the CJ is not the judicial secretary. The judicial secretary is not the CJ. If people confuse the judicial secretary's administrative work with the Chief Justice leadership role, they might wrongly blame the Chief Justice for routine administrative decisions or operational issues she had little or no direct hand in. Christopher Abbey says, this particular health minister does too much propaganda with health issues. This is PR gimmicks gone wrong. The minister went to tarnish the image of the past government. If not for politics, can the minister talk to a medical consultant that way? Shameful, he concludes. Baba Hassan said, the second coming of John Mahama to reset Ghana is going unabated with this sack there and there. Ghanaians are watching, he said. Gibson said it was a planned stage to aid them fire the CEO of the hospital and replace him with Dr. Baba,
who was the NDC former parliamentary candidate for Karaga constituency in 2024. Karaga in 2024. Abdul Basit comes again and say that if they felt the doctor's strike was illegal per Section 175 of the Labour Act, why didn't they sanction them? This Act 174 is redundant because essential service workers are unions. And said Abdul again says, more comment from me. Let's face it, medical doctors are among the brightest, if not the brightest in the world. They naturally would be upset by attempts to embarrass them, especially by political inexperience experiment. I don't know what that means. Very ungenerous comments there. A ranking member status of a health minister is no experience in health sector. I think that's up for debate. But thank you very much, Basit, for sending us your comments. Christopher makes a return and says that this health minister has introduced too much politics into the health ministry. Everything that goes in the health ministry, he blames on the NPP government. Akando is not fit for the job. Square peg in a round hole. And those are comments from our Facebook commenters, Christopher Abe, with that last one. You're still listening to the Forum on Asaase Radio 99.5 in the crowd. We're live on 98.5 in Kumasi, 99.7 in Tamale, 100.3 in Cape Coast. I still have in studio with me Kwesi Batchvey, private legal practitioner, and a member of the NPP communications team, and of course, Alex Gyamfi, private legal practitioner, and a very good friend to the show, whose perspective that we always rely heavily on. Now, I want us to look at one other story that got everyone talking yesterday about the former National Signals Bureau boss and the wife suing the Attorney General for defamation. And the suit is coming on the back of a press conference that was held nearly a month, it's well over a month ago, by the Attorney General, Nii Ayine, who presented findings by the Economic Organized Crime Office implicating or alleging that the former head of the of the Signals Bureau committed some financial misappropriations and malfeasance. This is raising a question of the balance between public accountability and the right of those under investigation to have the say and to file a suit like this. Kwesi, let me come to you. What do you make by the suit filed by the former boss of the Signals Bureau and the reliefs he's seeking?
Thank you very much. So, the former boss of the Signals Bureau, Mr. Kwabena has sued the AG or Dominic Ayine in his personal capacity, not as an AG, seeking for exemplary and punitive damages against the AG for publishing and broadcasting highly offensive defamatory materials concerning the plaintiff, that is Mr. Kwabena and the wife Angela, and also seeking an order of perpetual injunction restraining Dominic Ayine from further publishing or broadcasting or causing to be published or broadcast the said or similar words of similar words defamatory of the plaintiff. So I agree that Mr. Edubwai, and I am very happy and I commend him for taking such a bold, courageous step in suing Dominic Ayine in his personal capacity. Because you see, what Mr. Ayine did, he's the leader of the bar. I respect him, I revere him. But you see, my humble and respectful opinion, what he did was unlike of an Article 88 Attorney General,
which says,
globally, you see, the duty of a prosecutor is to lay the evidence against the accused person to the judge or to the court, for the court to determine the guilt or otherwise of the accused person. A prosecutor is not committed or must not be seen to be committed to establish or to see an accused person convicted at all costs. That is not your duty. Your duty is to lay the evidence for justice to be served. But you have an attorney general who is only interested in proving the guilt of accused persons. Even Mr. Kwabena Dubai is not even an accused person yet. Who is only interested in initiating prosecutions in the media. You come to the media to tell the media that Mr. Kwabena Dubai has diverted funds from government national security account to his private account. You see, this clearly, in my humble opinion, doesn't make any sense. It takes a lot of procedures for a person to take exactly. And again, when it comes to the issues of the national security, you realize that the national security coordinator is the topmost boss. So you want to tell me that the national security coordinator, upon realizing that $7 million have been drawn from the national security accounts to a private individual's account, they didn't raise any alarm? Or officials of the national security or the minister for national security would see this and not raise any alarm?
Or they could be in cahoots.
But you see, the national security has ways they operate. It is possible that they even created a special purpose vehicle to even, initiate some of their transactions. And I'll tell you something today. You remember under the Eswala administration, during the NCA issues, Ghana, we purchased most of our security and listening devices from the Israeli government or agencies within Israel. In 2015, when the National Communications Authority purchased listening devices worth about $2 million, you remember the Gyamfi case, worth about $2 million from the Israeli company, there was an end, agreement to the contract they had, in that the agency buying the listening device were the ones supposed to use the listening device. You cannot go and buy from the Israeli company and go and sell to another company. They have a term they call it. But the NCA bought it. The NCA is not a security agency, it is only a telecommunication agency. They bought it and used the device to even listen and monitor calls of opposition party. After MPP was in opposition, listen and monitor calls of the opposition party. And so this resulted in a blacklist. Ghana was blacklisted by the Israeli government. And so when President Akufo-Addo came to power, the MPP administration couldn't even purchase security devices from the Israeli government because it became a matter of public concern. It became a matter of, criminal investigation. It became a matter of prosecution. The AG prosecuted Eugene Bafo-Boni, Matthew Teve, and Alhaji Osman Mumuni, who was then the Deputy National Security Coordinator and also a member of the NCA board. They were all prosecuted. In fact, Alhaji Osman Mumuni was pardoned by President Akufo-Addo prior to the 2024 elections on grounds of ill health, and the Savannah Chiefs came to plead and all that. And so this is the background of the story. So as at the time President Akufo-Addo took over in 2017, Ghana had been blacklisted on the Israeli market. We couldn't purchase any security device. So the National Security Administration under President Akufo-Addo had to quickly devise, strategies and start new negotiations with the Israeli government to build back the confidence. And so national security has their own way of going about things. I do not even have a problem if you feel any person, has breached the law and you want to prosecute the person, but you follow due process. As an attorney general, you don't go to information or press center or information ministry to go and say somebody is a criminal. If you do that, you are on the frolic of your own. That is not the duty of an attorney general. That is not the duty of the principal legal advisor to the state.
Is it not his
duty? Your duty is to inform, update the public on where investigations have gotten to. Your duty is not to convict people. Your duty is not to say past judgments that somebody is a criminal.
Like said
allegations. And that he made an emphatic statement. And if he went ahead to admonish Kwabena Duboahin to accept a plea bargain, You understand? He went ahead. You've not even initiated prosecution. You are thinking about sentencing and plea bargain. This is totally unusual and unlike of an AG. The AG, it is good. Kwabena Duboahen has sued the AG in his personal capacity. Kwabena Duboahen deserves a formal apology from the AG. The fact that you are an AG doesn't mean you are above the law. The AG in itself is a creature of the Constitution. You must respect the right to fair trial, of accused persons. Kwabena Duboahen is presumed innocent until proven guilty. He's not even an accused person. Kwabena Duboahen is not even under any obligation to even help you, Attorney General, to even build your case or even, help you prosecute. He's not under any obligation. He can even decide to be quiet throughout the interrogation process, throughout the prosecution stages, until you have been able to prove his, guilt. But is it not interesting that after over a month of that press conference, over a month after holding that press conference, the AG has not been able to even prefer a single charge against Kwabena Duboahen. In fact, when they went to court on the day of the bail application, the AG requested for 3 weeks. The 3 weeks ended during the Easter holidays. The AG till today has not been able to prefer a single charge. And do you know why the AG has not been able to prefer a single charge? Because upon a deeper investigation into the matter, the AG has come to the realization that either he was misled by certain officials or that the allegations against Mr. Kwabena Duboahen is totally empty. Totally empty. There is no element of truth in the allegations made against Mr. Kwabena Duboahen. But you see, you cannot, the fact that you are an AG doesn't mean you have the license to damage the reputation of innocent people. This is a person who, from the statement of claim, has been with the security agency since 2007, has risen through the ranks of the National Security Council, has been Deputy Director General for Signals, was very instrumental in the passage of the National Signals Bureau Act, was promoted as the boss of the National Signals Bureau, has led a lot of intelligence. Do you know that Kwabena Duboahen was the leader of the operations that went to rescue the kidnapped Canadian girls?
What does that do to allegations?
I am saying that this is a person, this is an asset of the state. Okay, like they call them in the US. This is a security operative who has risen through the ranks and has nothing even to do with active politics. Kwabena Duboahen is not a politician. Until the AG came out to label this unsubstantiated allegations against him. Did you know him? I didn't know him. I'm sure the good people of this country didn't know him.
The MPP didn't know him.
But of course, if you say the MPP didn't know him, he has friends within MPP. He may have friends within NDC. He may have friends within CPP and or what have you. But what is that until that time, he was not, an active member, or he's not a politician. He is only a security operative who has risen through the ranks of the National Security Council. And so the AG must do the honorable thing by apologizing to Kwabena Duboahen for labeling him as a criminal without any basis, without any evidence. Right. And also the AG, you see, the internal turf war even at Yoko even confirms the fact that it looks as if this government doesn't even know what they are doing. They just want to appease their base, and they have astute lawyers who always want to defend such actions.
I have a friend who has just walked in.
Well, yes, you just did my job for me.
Yes,
looking like an angel.
Astute lawyers. Astute lawyers who are always, appeasing their base and say, "Ora, we arrest them, but you arrest them without evidence. After 1 month, you cannot charge the person. You call somebody a criminal, and after 1 month, you cannot even initiate any charges against the supposed criminal." The AG was on the frolic of his own, and it is going to be an interesting legal battle in court for the AG to come and prove, because Kwabena Duboahen has committed in proving his innocence. So So the AG must come and prove his allegations against Mr. Kwabena Dubois. In fact, in school, the likes of Senior Kpakpo has taught us, okay, that, and have made us understand that we must be firm and we must hold fidelity to the law. And in fact, you need not to be a lawyer to know that you are presumed innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
And you need not to be a lawyer to even know that until it is only a court of competent jurisdiction that can label one person as a criminal.
Right. Kwesi, I'll come back to you, and of course, Alex Gyamfi. But let me say a very good morning to Nii Kpakpo, looking all white. What's the occasion?
I want to say a big congratulations to the Honorable Abby Bright. She outdoed her baby this morning, and I had to be
like
around.
Double blessing.
Yeah.
Appointed as the
That's
mayor
one
of
very
Mahama.
good friend of mine that I have to definitely be around. So congratulations to Honorable Abby. Double congratulations, and God's blessings to the newborn. So that's why I'm in all white.
Oh, okay.
I'm caught up. Yes, I'm caught up with this. I'm sorry
because I also have a soft spot for Evie Bright.
Yes,
I've actually been to her residence before.
Yeah,
and
so you know,
the story,
let me say that I know a lot has been said. I was following when I was dashing in here, and for the love of the show, you know, whether funerals or what have you, we still make time for the show.
We appreciate
yes,
that.
we still make time for the show. But my general comments. First on
the suspension
of
the
Chief Justice. You see, I'm happy that a lot of my colleagues on the MPP, as lawyers and all that, are not quoting any specific constitutional provisions that have been breached. You understand? So they are going for when the law is not on your side, go for the facts. If the facts is not on your side, then shout. That's the mantra.
But they also mentioned the discretion that
you see. I have nobody in this country, I can say with all the authority at my disposal, has litigated Article 146 more than me. Name one lawyer that has litigated Article 146 more than myself. There's no one. No one reported who has litigated Article 146 more than myself. And that was as a result of the fact that I led the legal team that represented the judges during the Asaase era. So we literally litigated 146, 12, what have you. And we laid the foundation for most of the things that are being discussed today.
But that's our duty at the back.
I feel very proud and honored to have done that in 2016. You know, at that time, I'm sure you were still in SS, or primary school. You know,
No, I wasn't.
you know, and I looking at the surprisingly, the current Chief Justice was also the High Court judge in the sole High Court judge in the Asaase case. You know, and you know, sometimes they say when you are dealing with a particular matter, you need to be careful. Sometimes the principles you lay down may later on come back
to haunt you.
Not haunt you, but to be applied to you.
Right.
So my first issue then was whether the confidentiality of the process, whether the process should be, you know, Asaase wanted to play it at the conference center, and we were vehemently opposed. We brought an injunction application. We were supposed to serve by solicited service. And we had a few clashes in the High Court there between myself and the current Chief Justice over whether we should, you know. And straight enough, even lawyers then were shouting, "Oh, they should allow us to play it." And I was insistent that a breach of that confidentiality clause can have adverse effects. It had to take us going to Kumasi and suing the Golden Tulip in Kumasi with a contempt application attached for Asaase to be able to stop going around. That was how we stopped it. We couldn't stop him in Accra, but we stopped him in Kumasi, and that brother, he was going to show it in the whole country. And in that case, the Supreme Court affirmed the fact that you cannot breach the confidentiality provision. And that show was an illegality. And that was the first time a sitting Chief Justice was cited as having acted unconstitutionally by disclosing the names of the then judges, you know. That's also a record, by the way. But the point that I wanted to make in respect of that was that we went back again on a second thing, which was salaries. We said even if you are investigating a judge, your judge should not be put on half salary, because it amounts to, bringing down or demotion, attacking or touching their benefits, which are not supposed to be attached. Supreme Court disagree with us. So as we speak, if the law was being applied strictly, our CJ, suspended CJ should actually be on half salary.
But why wouldn't the law not be applied fully?
Yeah, no, I'm saying no. I'm saying
the law.
No, I'm saying I'm coming.
No,
I'm saying that, you see, sometimes these principles that we litigate have interesting consequences.
But it will affect the ordinary person or any public servant.
In the Bodhene case, the very first one, the Supreme Court also said, that when the process starts, you can't truncate it. Mm-hmm. We had come to seek to invalidate the petition. They went 2 steps ahead and said that once there are allegations, that the judicial office is of such an importance, that once there are even allegations against a judicial officer, they must be investigated. Yeah. So you cannot. So the point by the Supreme Court in that case was that when the impeachment process starts, i.e., when the petition is received, you can't truncate the process. In fact, they went as far as using strong language to indicate that if you attempt to truncate the process, it amounts to a subversion of the Constitution.
But the Supreme Court is not banned by a previous decision.
Hold on, I'm coming. So even as we speak, the injunction application, I was laughing. Because if you read the provisions of the interpretation as given by the Supreme Court in the Bodhene case, you can't even injunct the process. That was the position of the court in the Bodhene case. In fact, if you attempt to do that, they found to be that you are subverting the Constitution. You see? So when the process starts, that's why if you look at the GBA statement, if you look at all the major players, nobody has said that the president has acted unconstitutionally. What they have rather said, and I agree with, is that we must be watchdogs of the process to ensure that
the due process
is followed. You understand? But what is also important, okay, is that if we believe, after looking at this process, that we need further safeguards in the Constitution to ensure that frivolous, you understand, and ill-motivated persons, because remember that the executive, you see, the thing about the executive, and that's why I don't always blame the MPP too much, there's a lot of power in the executive, and the executive can be overbearing. So when they lost the election, one of my first statements I made in this studio was the fact that one of the failings of the NPP party was in its ability to check President Nana Addo. No wonder that President Nana Addo is lead in terms of who to blame when it comes to the reason. You see, because the power that the presidency, listen, the power that the presidency, the power that the presidency can, like global analytics is there. The power,
even the Swami MP.
Listen, the power that the executive position comes with, if you are not careful, you become sycophantic. You become. That's why when you were victorious, if you go back to history, when you were a victorious Roman general, you were entering the Roman Rome, there is somebody who was put behind you. When the people hail you as even being a god because you have won a war, that person was supposed to whisper into your ears that you still remain a human being. You are mortal. It's supposed to remind you that you are a mortal, because it is important to always have some humility when it comes to the office. Other than that, you will be taken, because look, when you look at the judiciary and the power that the judiciary have to interpret the law, and you, the executive, you always want, look at Trump. Trump is always ranting and ranting when the Supreme Court rules against him. But the American system has stood and withstood the times of time. Even when it is political, the appointees can even say they have philosophical leanings towards either Republican or Democrats. When it comes to certain core issues, they apply the law. And we must get to that point where we insulate our judiciary from executive or legislative interference, because it is the last place that we have. If the judiciary falls, we are all dead. That is why as a growing or evolving constitution, we must improve our systems so that an overbearing executive or an overbearing legislature does not have the opportunity to go in there. So if you look at the Kenyan model, for example, if you look at the South African system, it is open. If you want to be Chief Justice, you apply. You go through an open, competitive interview. The results are published. The panel is actually a panel of that even has jurists from other countries, including our CJ, sits on the Kenya and sometimes invited to come and sit on the Kenya Judicial Council that makes the decision on who should be the CJ. It's important. If you go look at the South Africa, sometimes you have the benefit of watching TV. You see them appearing before the appointments committee for vetting. You understand? If we deem it necessary, then let's look and relook at our appointment and removal processes and take some of those, as we have all advocated, take some of those powers from the presidency and vest it in independent bodies who we know.
But with due respect, is this position not an afterthought?
No, I'm saying no.
I'm coming. We've never heard anywhere prior to this incident that any academic or lawyer, anybody has raised questions with the procedure to appoint.
Oh, my brother. You know, listen, the NDC, when we were in opposition, have complained that, hold on, I've complained.
I have not landed, so you may get me wrong.
Sorry.
The constitution we have,
yes,
is virtually the baby of His Excellency, the former president,
yes,
Rawlings. We all have the benefit of the experience of constitutional rule in Ghana since 1960, particularly from 69, Constitutional Commission reports, 79, 92. We have all the big men from Obeda Samoa, Forcing, and others to today. And we have been operating this very system among the Commonwealth countries without the kind of new suggestions I am seeing. Even in the FIAJU committee, which I admit I have not read all. Because I keep on, it's a continuous process. Did not make some of these critical, the critique we are making.
Yeah. And so, what has changed?
Yeah, exactly.
You see, we have become more partisan. You see, the problem we have in this country, and let's be honest, let's be brutally and frank around this table, that we have become a very and highly partisan.
The removal of the...
No. Whatever, we become partisan in everything that we do. We read politics in everything. So, of course, when somebody believes that he has a certain advantage, you understand, he tries to push that advantage to a certain extreme, if you want to. Everything is looked at in political lenses. You see, some positions, you have to be able to navigate that position with a lot of skill and a lot of touch. And I always give credence and acknowledgement to former Chief Justice Theodora Wood. On 2 occasions, when she was nominated for promotion. First was when the fast track court case happened. My Leonard Tina will bear me out. She was nominated as one of the judges to go for the review. She refused. She refused the nomination because she said the surrounding circumstances of that nomination could lead to other things being read into her nomination. So rather than take that nomination at that time, she will not. And so it went to Asaase and it went to Afre. There was a second occasion, I just can't get the exact list, where again, when she was nominated, she refused. So it was on the 3rd occasion that she was nominated for the position of Chief Justice by President Kufuor. And I'm sure that it was the independence of thought and the integrity that she exhibited on those occasions when she was nominated that influenced the man's decision. Because there were other senior lawyers who were even, to some extent, more friendlier to President Kufuor because he's also a senior lawyer and all that. But she was, at that time, she was not the senior most, probably not the favorite.
because we had other judges there. So you see,
the actual favorite
was he was an insider. So you tell
why I went to the
yes.
Of course, there was Professor Modibo crime.
Thank you.
But there were arguments as to Modibo's orientation.
You see,
Modibo is a Marxist socialist.
Yes. But those were exciting times. So you read, you read Modibo and what do you call it? You know, I just want to make this point. Yes, I know. I just want to make
really.
Yeah,
when the debate is hiding up,
we have to go.
I know. I just want to make this point. Now you see that position of CG. Okay, you must have a high sense of. You must be able to navigate that. It's a both a quiz. It's a judicial office, but it's also a political office because the Supreme Court is a policy court. So you must be able to work. You understand with all governments, and that's the thing. As I keep going back to Rawood, how she was able to work with governments, both NDC and NPP, without being. See. You have power of discretion and all that, and paneling and all that. You never saw her sit on some of the most sensitive.
No, was he run away from the responsibilities? You see, he did it to your advantage.
Some will say that
she was running away from the responsibilities.
No, you see, some will say that she was running down. But you see, you must balance. My fear is, you see, when you don't look. Let me tell you one of them coming from the NDC. I'll be honest with you about something. One of the biggest complaints that the NDC lawyers had were two occasions. One was the issue of when we filed for the election during the registration. There was an injunction application that was filed. The date that was given was after the judicial holiday. You understand? So the date came in October. We had precedent where during the legal vacation, a similar application had been filed before, and the then Chief Justice made one court, because you know that the Supreme Court, one judge can sit.
The motion.
The motion was a motion.
It's a motion.
It was a motion. One judge sat and dealt with the motion, and so when the date came after the event, there was uproar. The second one was the Afenyomakin matter. Every practitioner knows that Supreme Court doesn't sit on Fridays. And if you are a practitioner, at least I have practiced for some time, my learned friend has practiced for some time. You don't file a case at 10 or 12 o'clock, and 5 judges sit by 2 o'clock and render a decision on the very matter. You see, those things. No. When you see those things.
Was that what people were referring to?
Yes.
Judicial bias?
No, listen. Those things. They. You're exercising discretion, but and as I said, we are in a highly partisan environment. You give fodder, you understand, for people to begin to question the exercise of the discretion. You understand? And remember that in whatever you do, that's why we have a scales of justice. There must be a balance. Even if it's perception wise. See, justice is not only about what you have delivered, but it's also about the perception out there. So when there's a perception, that's where, and you see, when you are dealing with two sides, yes, you like children. When you have children, everybody wants your attention. NDC and NPP, we are like children to the judiciary. You understand? Everybody wants your attention. But whatever you do, both sides must always be able to leave you feeling that, well, we lost. But, the process, that's why the substantive law, as my friend will tell you, the substantive law and the procedure by which you achieve what you achieve is very important to us as lawyers. Right. That's why we have something called procedural fairness and also the substantive law of it. I think that there are issues, and I'm not going to the merits of the petition, but I think that whoever wants to be in that office, then this is just free advice. You need to go back and look at how your predecessors have managed that place. You understand?
And how predecessors have also failed us.
And then chart your own course, because sometimes it is not the best to be the example. And I think where things have gone, honestly, if I were advising the CJ, and that's my last word on it, I would have told her to resign. Because you see, sometimes being in there to fight, okay, can have that. You see, sometimes it's not about just you, it's about the institution.
You made a political vow to remove the person.
No, you see,
you made the political vow.
No, you see, that
get to where you are. And then you have set the process and you advise the person to do that.
I always correct this thing here by saying that when the statement, there was a statement made by President Mahama that the judiciary needs, he was hoping that the new Chief Justice will come in and reset. That statement was made when Justice Nii Kpakpo was in power. And that statement he made it. I was at the program.
But you see,
I was at the program.
But you see, Senior has just confirmed that the NDC wants the CJ out. You know why? He just said that. He just said. He just said that. No. Wait. Senior just said that the NDC has two main issues with the CJ.
Oh no.
One. That's what. Senior, no, that's what. No, okay, Senior, what did you say? You said the issue.
No. Listen. I said that. If you listen to the commentary raised by a lot of, and when those cases came up, and you were all here when we discussed those cases, when those cases came up, the cacophony of noise that was, because at that time
by the NDC,
the NDC went to court. The NDC was the party.
So the NDC were unhappy with the decisions of the CJ.
No, they were unhappy. Number one, when it came to the that particular first case on the registration exercise.
Exactly.
The lawyers of the NDC at the time registered their protest about the manner in which the date was given. So they went
that's fine.
Then the second occasion, where it wasn't the NDC alone. A lot of lawyers, and please let's be frank about this, that a matter was heard, a matter was filed, even the Speaker of Parliament held a press conference. Somebody as high as the Speaker of Parliament held a press conference to protest certain aspects of the way in which the case was heard, and even the issue of service. You understand? I'm saying that, look, you are a player in three arms of government. That's why we have the principle of separation of separate by what? Equal. You understand? You need each other to what? To survive and to relate. So when you are an occupant of one of the offices, no matter how independent that office is, there is a certain level of interdependence. So you must navigate the exercise of the discretion that you have invested with care. Other than that, you would end up with some, I believe, unavoidable clashes. You understand? And so for me, whatever it is, but you see, that's, as they say, we've crossed the Rubicon because we've gotten to a point where the stakes are what? Are high. Where we could have acted with a bit of restraint back then, we have crossed that place. And so for me, as it is, if you ask me, and I'm just giving my frank advice, because I think that the institution, you see, sometimes if you fight to the very bitter end, you understand, nobody wins. It is the institution that suffers.
No, but if the person feels aggrieved by the processes, the person feels aggrieved by the process.
Listen to me carefully. I'm saying that sometimes when you get to a certain point, a lot of people will tell you that even if you fight to the bitter end, what will be the end result? You understand? Everybody has a right to his innocence, and I will never take away. I fought for judges who had been accused of bribery, even with evidence. Some people had gone to visit them with goods. There was one of them that I always make a reference to, Justice Ayine,
who was my criminal law lecturer.
Because the person who took that parcel to him later came back to recant and said the man drove me out of his home, and yet he became a victim of. I'm not talking about those who you even saw with videos and all that. That's a different matter. But let me single out Justice Ayine. So sometimes it's not about what you perceive as your right to. Because at the end we fought. It didn't. So I'll be the last person to take away the CJ's right to have her day in court.
So why are you admonishing her to resign then?
Finally, we don't have enough time.
So admonish the CJ to also defend herself.
At the reasons that have been determined to establish a prima facie, do you think that...
I refrain from commenting because the process is still ongoing. But I'll just say that, we all are legal practitioners.
But have you seen the petitions?
I haven't. We all are legal practitioners. We can all proffer advice. And I'm saying that this is my personal
Senior, but as a matter of principle, you defended judges who you felt were improperly,
I'm looking at an institution because the person represents an institution, as opposed to individual judges who, for all intents and purposes, were fighting for their personal rights. This is somebody who represents an institution.
No, but these allegations have been made against the person of the CJ, not the institution.
So
you understand? These allegations are against the direct. They are impersonal allegations.
Nobody has taken her right away to defend herself.
No, but if you say she should resign, it means you are admonishing her to resign.
Let me clarify. Let me state this again. Personally, let me emphasize that. As a personal advice, if she were my auntie, she were my sister, I would have said, look, sometimes it's good.
She were your client.
If she were my client, I would still tell you the same thing. That look, sometimes let's walk away with what we can, because what I foresee you possibly losing out on, if you fight this and it doesn't go well, is your pension, your reputation, everything you have fought for over the past 30 years, 40 years will go down the drain because the full report will be published. You understand? But if you resign, hey, you don't owe anybody an explanation. You can actually make more. Say, look, people came after me politically. Everybody can see that there's a strong. You can make a lot of.
Everybody can see that there's a strong political machination to remove it.
You can make those arguments, and it will have a basis because
a general running away from the battlefield.
Yeah, whatever. There's been no committee finding against you. Do you understand? But anyway, as you said, she also has a right to defend herself.
And
nobody can take that away from her.
She should.
And so, as a matter of principle, if she feels strongly about it, you as lawyers can only advise. We all advise our client. They take the ultimate decision. And we all are entitled to have opinions. And I'm saying that personally, if she were my client, I would say, look, you do some. You understand? The position is not a permanent position anyway. You understand? Whatever it is, public, this thing. If you were to die today, somebody will come and take your place.
But you see, my challenge, respectfully,
I'm very pained that would have to discontinue.
You won't come in time for us to have a night.
At the point where it's getting really interesting, but let me just speak your thought on the former head of the Signals Bureau. He's suing the Attorney General as in his capacity, as an individual, not as an Attorney General.
No, as an individual capacity.
As an individual capacity.
In whichever way.
Yes, individual. Yes, 100%.
So that's wrong.
I know Dr. Ayine very well.
He was on the frolic of his own.
I know Dr. Ayine very, very well.
How do you see somebody in a where he was standing there? Was he standing there?
It is not the duty of the AG to call people criminals when the court has not immunity for calling people criminals.
MPs somewhere and call people.
No, the AG has immunity for call people criminals. It's only the court that can call people criminals. AG doesn't have any immunity to call people criminals.
Ayine very well. He was a teacher.
Yeah.
And we used to argue. If you are in Ayene's class.
If he was reading from
if you are in Ayene's class, then you might be prepared to read.
He was just a suspect.
I remember him very well in the case of the Ghana 50 case. Yeah. That day we didn't say anything. He was teaching us administrative law. The argument was to the extent that the next day he even wrote an article in the Graphic against Justice Mavosang's judgment. The judgment, the department, many of the professors, Professor Kwabena and those who saw that it was the best for administrative law.
Yeah.
That time, under Mills, there was a gentleman heading Yoko, Mota Akpaji. And Mota Akpaji is a senior lawyer. And Akpaji was doing things that was affecting the image of government. How suspects and people who appeared before Yoko investigation were treated and the problems he had with them. And we used to discuss all these things in class. When Ayine was nominated as Attorney General, I was one of the people who praised the president for the decision. And I was of the opinion that these are people you cannot get them to use the law for purposes of what? Partisan politics. But honestly, Ayene's assumption in the last 2.5 months, I have not been happy.
And my problem with him is the press conference he holds. That is the problem, because it is something you will not get an attorney general to do.
To inform people?
To inform what? To go into more
people in the public.
Complicate the matters.
Even inviting them to come and plead again. Hey,
why?
So when I had him on this, when you've not charged the person,
why?
See now, when you've not charged the person, see now you are telling the person to come and plead again when you've not charged the person.
You know you have done something wrong. Come and
when you've not charged the person,
you are shifting the goalpost. My problem with Anayene is that he's talking too much. Because you know that every attorney general has a huge burden. Remember the day they themselves, the problem they had with Martin Amido. The NDC itself, members of the NDC itself have problem they had with Martin Amido.
To come back.
So I think that Malene senior and teacher should not be talking too much.
Relax, he's promised you fireworks from next month.
So he should do the fireworks than because talking too much.
Right.
Because it is unusual to have Attorney General to call press conference and pronouncing the guilt of people.
and invite them
we have
to come
clearly,
and
you know, 1969, O2 and another was Attorney General. When a press conference has been held and a commission of inquiry has been established, and some people have gone round to make prejudicial comments, these people appear before Justice Archer.
Yeah.
And they were acquitted and discharged. Now, if you knew the results of your commission of inquiry, why do you then set up the commission? You remember that case?
I say you relax. Yeah, here. I tell you, General is working. Relax.
He's talking too much.
Finally,
he's only working in the media.
1 minute.
He's only working in the media. 4 months, he's not been able to charge him.
Oh no, it's not easy to start a criminal trial.
Well,
the problem I have with the too much talk.
I agree.
It is never easy to establish.
I agree.
Convince even one person.
I agree.
This is an attorney
But
general.
senior, you see, if you don't have all your evidence together, you don't come into the public domain to call somebody a criminal. Senior, one actress.
Now, you see,
and now book law is different from studio.
I know. Now, keep quiet.
No, he taught us
Keep quiet.
that you cannot call people a criminal. It is only a court of competent jurisdiction that has that power. Or senior, the position of the law change. Senior, the position of the law
we
change.
have 4 minutes to wrap up.
The AG has a constitutional duty to inform the public about the nature of his work. You can't tell him that he cannot hold a press conference and tell the court, tell the Ghanaian people what it is that you are the same people who
We are responsible for what you say.
Exactly. But why has he run away? Do you see Dr. Ayine being a kind of lawyer who ran away from a court battle? Come on. The point is this. We were the same people who set up Oral. The MPP will be the same people making noise that, hey, Oral, don't cry, what has happened? What is this? Exactly. When the man comes and starts giving you updates, you say, you don't understand why he should give you updates.
We are not against the update.
You and
we are
I,
against
listen.
the conviction in the media.
Listen.
The media prosecution.
He has, this is not the first time. And your previous Attorney General has done the same.
He never called anybody a criminal in the media.
Really?
Dami never called any. No. There is one example. Give us an example. One example.
I wanted to pick your thoughts on.
He never invited anybody to come and plead again in the media. It never happened.
I will mention this. They are all my good friends. I will mention this. But I have seen media reports.
An example.
When they are doing
See the reference the media reports.
And they come out to tell the public or update the public about the work they are doing.
Oh, that's
Dr.
fine.
Ayine is doing a fantastic job. He has stated on principle that he will not rush to court unless he's ready.
He's not
and
able making press conference.
But he's told you that he has the evidence. And if you have, and that's why the man has taken up the challenge and has sued him for defamation.
Yeah.
So that's fine. And I think that is a nice challenge.
Yeah.
Me, I like litigation. Anybody will tell you that testing the system. You understand? So for me, the matter will be dealt with in court. You understand? You say you have evidence that I've done A, B, C, and D. I throw you a challenge by suing you to come and prove it. And I'm sure that I will be surprised if Dr. Ayine will respond, and we will probably see court processes being filed as well. So let's relax.
Suing as an individual.
No. As in the fact that you are
Different charges against him.
No, you have what do you call it? You have sued me in defamation. I definitely have to respond.
Yeah, he has
and he's indicated at a press conference that you have done A, B, C, and D, and he's putting together the necessary docket to proceed to court. So clearly, you will have your day in court. I think that you should relax. He has gone ahead to say that you have defamed him and you are on bail. So you take me on and let's show the world what it is that you say I've done that I haven't done. So let's relax. I think that I like the way I like one thing for Dr. Ayine, which is that he won't go to court without a proper docket. That one you can trust him. That if the docket is not solid, he will rush to court. And that is always, you see, as an Attorney General, your ability to exert that stamina against the public pressure that comes with the office is very important.
Is that why he's not
other than that, you run to court. Other than that, you run to court and embarrass yourself. As a former prosecutor, I will always advise you: if your docket is not ready, don't go. Right. It is very embarrassing to go to court and be torn apart for your charge sheet being defective, for your charges being not properly laid, and all that. It's very embarrassing.
Thank you very much. Let me squeeze in some few messages from our comment text on Facebook. Sylvester Boateng says, "Good morning. The problem is being too partisan, and there is no way we are going to make a way forward in terms of developing this country called Ghana. Again, it also boils down to leadership. Which of our leaders will be bold enough to say no more? It's unfortunate we are still here as a country." Christopher Abbey comes back to say that the CJ will not resign. Such a bad suggestion. The whole world will know how unruly the NDC government is. Conclusions are shameful. Christopher again says, "So Penny's suggestion, the NDC started a fight against the CJ, and you want the CJ to turn around and say it's enough? Take your position. I am resigning. I believe the CJ knows it's finished, but her fighting will expose the snake and the grass, JDM." And those
let me clarify this issue so that we don't get it wrong.
If it's an advice he prefers.
It's a personal advice I prefer.
Right.
It is not a position that I take.
Even though it's unwarranted.
Oh, well, that one is for you to take it or leave it.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you very much for that clarification. So those are some comments on Facebook on the forum today. Many thanks for your time. It's been 4 hours of looking at the biggest stories of the week. Many thanks for joining us. Let me also say a very big thank you to our guests, Alex Gyamfi, private legal practitioner, Kwesi Batchvey, private legal practitioner and member of the NPP communications team, and of course Nii Kpakpo, lecturer, and of course the stanch member.
But when is Nii's appointment coming?
National Democratic Congress.
Which of the boards and which of the...
Many thanks for your time on the show.
Oh no, we are waiting for your appointment. We are waiting for Mahama. All the jobs
week.
All the jobs
also
we are needed for you. Please, we are waiting for his appointment.
Out there, keep safe, and the funeral.
Thank you for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe.